Today, getting you ready for game one of a series in Arlington, as Jim just told you about, between the Padres and the Rangers. We've been catching up on the farm this week. We had John Nolan, voice of the Tin Caps, yesterday. We'll have Tim Haggerty, voice of the Padres AAA affiliate, the Chihuahuas, join us at 3:30. Then more Padres talk with Scott Miller, New York Times. He will join the show coming up at 5 p.m. Here's our talkback question, Jim. Because I'll be honest with you, we haven't necessarily used the talkback question over the last few days, but I feel like there's a question that I want to hear from our listeners on. And it's this. Knowing everything we now know about Jackson Merrill, do you think twice about potentially a blockbuster involving top prospects? Knowing what we've seen from Merrill develop and pay dividends this quickly, are you thinking about not just Ethan Salas and Leo DeVries, but Robbie Snelling and Dylan Lesko? Are you thinking twice about the top prospects in the organization? Padres fans, with the trade deadline less than a month away, you can hit us up on the Talkback mic. We'll play your responses this hour. Open the app, the iHeartRadio app, search for San Diego Sports 760, and tap that red talkback mic. We'll play your 30-second responses coming up later this hour. I mean, Jackson Merrill is on fire. He absolutely is deserving of an all-star bid. He's one of the best outfielders in baseball right now. Does his success story change what A.J. Preller may or may not do with his system moving forward?
Potentially. Let's do this mic ready to go. Potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Did anything, though, change with Ethan Salas and Leo DeVries, though?
Anything change in what regard? In
like,
terms
even
of,
if Jackson Merrill wasn't doing what he's doing right now, would anything have changed?
I don't know. Well, okay, run through with me then. Let's say Merrill was a struggling rookie that had been sent down.
Okay.
Bounced back and forth a little bit. He's still considered one of your top prospects, but let's say he hit, 167 in 119 plate appearances and had no power. And they sent him to AAA, and then maybe came up and had another 30 at bats, but it hasn't been meaningful.
That'd be really bad, John.
No, I know, but we've seen it. Some of these Orioles top prospects haven't had the debuts that they were hoping to have initially. It happens all the time in baseball, right? Did Mike Trout have the best first 30 games? It goes on and on and on. I'm saying, would you then say, you know what? This proves the point that prospects are suspect until proven otherwise. Move the farm for established talent that can help you right now. But now that Merrill's been Merrill, and you know that Merrill struggled as a 19-year-old, and you got these 17, 18-year-olds, and DeVries and Salas, are you willing to be more patient? Not that I think they're really moving them, but what about the rest of these position players or pitchers in the organization that are highly sought after?
Well, one of them you're going to see in the futures game in Robbie Snelling.
Right, and the other is Ethan Salas, right?
Yep, the two Padres prospects that made it to the futures game in Texas, of all places. And so I don't know if anything would have changed with Preller, because again, there's not like a big time trade chip out there. If you want to consider Garrett Crochet the biggest trade chip on the market, it's not exactly like Max Scherzer in his prime. Now he's pitching amazing this year.
Yep.
And who knows, maybe you get Garrett Crochet, and that is the piece of the puzzle that you need in that rotation. And by the way, he's going to be with the team next year as well. So then you have even better rotation for next season. But I don't know if anything changed, and I don't think there's like this Juan Soto out there that would warrant a Salas or DeVries to be traded away.
Well, that's a fair point. I mean, listen, is Crochet the right player for the Padres right now? Arguably no, first-year starter. And you need innings maybe the second half of the year, but he's under control for a couple of years. Your point is valid. I guess what I would say is this. Like a year ago, Merrill, at least in the first half in Fort Wayne, we've talked about this before, he didn't hit. So you might have looked at the time and be like, you know what? If you can get rid of Merrill to go get someone that can put this team over the top to get to the postseason, maybe do it. And Salas, like, for example, we talked about this yesterday, I think, with John Nolan. 64 games, he's hit 191, but does it matter? Because they're not finished products. And nobody's going to tell you because he's hitting 191, you should trade him away, or because his OPS in Fort Wayne is 566. Now, but also we look at this Juan Soto deal, and this isn't necessarily fair. We're not the general managers, though, so we can critique, and we were all in favor of the Juan Soto deal. And then they put the graphic up with the dudes the Padres traded away, and you're like, man, that could hurt. That could really hurt.
Just a little bit. But again, I would do that trade over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Right.
Because Juan Soto was the piece that you just don't say no to. You have an opportunity to get Juan Soto, you get Juan Soto.
Mm-hmm.
I digress. That's in the past. We move forward. This year, Jackson Merrill, he has proven that AJ Preller can draft and develop through the system.
Right.
So with that being said, does it change the organization's mindset on young players going forward? Potentially. Would it have mattered in the first place? I don't know. If Jackson Merrill wasn't contending, would anything have changed, or competing, excuse me, would anything have changed with AJ Preller's thought process? Or if this team is still where they're at right now, record-wise, he's probably thinking the same things he's thinking right now.
Well, what about like the lines we've heard from Eric Rupner, I'd say over the last, 15 months since the start of 2023, that like our sustainability is likely tied to our system, and we can't buy our way out of everything. Now, this is before Bally Sports went under, and this is before some of those issues. I know there was some podcast today that was like, the Padres have like a sugar daddy, but they lowered their payroll $80 million. So like their actions are speaking louder than some random podcast hosts because they've lowered their payroll a lot of money. And it does feel like they're somewhat reliant on players that are before arbitration eligible, right? These first 6-year players, because, with Machado and Tatis and whomever else, they've tied up a lot of money that you may need Ethan Salas at some point, to be, priced, not priced out, to have him for those first 3 or 4 years before he's making a lot of money. Same thing with the Leo DeVries or whomever else, Robbie Snelling, Dylan Lesko. So I just feel like maybe the organization has made it clear, and I don't know who's pulling these strings. Is it Eric Katsenda? Is it AJ Preller? Is it Eric Rupner? But haven't they kind of said that we're going to need to build with players like Jackson Merrill to be viable, not just now, but moving forward based on their payroll moves?
Well, when Eric Rupner spoke on the station a couple months ago, that's kind of exactly what he said.
Was that a couple months ago? Because I remember he said at the beginning of 2023.
No, it was the start of this season.
Okay, 2024.
Yeah, on the station. He said, like, look, we have to have homegrown talent be developed and stick at the big league level. We can't just continue, and this is kind of what he meant. We can't just continue to trade all these assets away and try to see if we can sign big-time free agents. This is not a sustainable formula. Like, the formula is we got to mesh all that together. We got to mesh our big-time contracts that we've signed along with the young players like Jackson Merrill, like Ethan Salas, like Robbie Snelling, Dylan Lesko, those types of guys going forward, or this thing is not going to be sustainable. So with about a month to go until the trade deadline, you see today the two future stars, Ethan Salas and Robbie Snelling, going to the Futures game.
Yep.
Do you think those two guys will be a member of the Padres organization come August, whatever it is, after the trade deadline?
I mean, I do feel like that's a fair question. And listen, prospects move around the deadline. I mean, the Padres aren't going to be the only team that may move one of their top, let's say, 5 prospects. There'll be multiple teams. There could be beyond 2, 3. There could be a handful of teams or more that move some of their top prospects. Like, again, I look at some of these numbers, Jim. You have to be so careful with young players that are drafted or highly sought after that are struggling in the minor leagues. I'll give you an example. Not just Ethan Salas. Robbie Snelling has a 6.5 ERA. But again, it's like, okay, so that's a reason to part ways with him because he's got a 6.5 ERA.
But Ethan Salas also
has a 500 OPS.
Right.
And Leo DeVries is a young player that hasn't done anything as of yet. And Dylan Lesko, we just talked to Jon Nolan yesterday, has struggled. Now he's pitched better in his last 3 outings. I think you could talk your way through it anyway. But I would be pretty adamant here. I'm not trading young players because they're not producing in the minor leagues. Like that, like I might have another reason. If I think Garrett Crochet is the difference for my team and it takes Robbie Snelling, I'll pull that trigger, but not because Robbie Snelling has had a tough year in wherever he is, in A-ball or AA with San Antonio, right? So that's my line of distinction. Like, I don't want to read into the numbers of these prospects, and the way I'm moving them, or the only reason I'm moving them, is if I think I can get better right now, I guess. Because again, even a Garrett Crochet, he's going to be arbitration eligible here. He's got 2 more years. You're going to be paying him if you go trade for Garrett Crochet in 2025, in 2026, as opposed to the Snellings and the Leskos who, are going to be on like rookie deals when they make their major league debuts.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those situations that they have to weigh all the pros and cons. It's this year, and I know John Conniff was here earlier, and he always texts me. He's like, "Oh, so you're gonna now trade all the prospects away, huh? I'm like, I'm not trading all the way. I'm not trading away all the prospects, John.
Sure.
But I also am looking here of like, we all want this team to win now. Like, there's no like tomorrow. There's no next year. There's no 2 years after. It's this year. We'll worry about 2026 and 2027 later.
Right.
I could say that right now, and you might regret it, right? But at the same time, you end up pulling off something that has never been done before here in San Diego, which is win a championship. Will anybody care? No.
I'm with you on that. I'm completely with you on that. It's like you got one eye on that. Like AJ Preller's job is truly this: his team, but also his future teams. I mean, that's his responsibility. You can't have no regard for the future if you're a GM. It's a good way to not have a job, but sometimes as a fan, you're like, you know what? Let's just do it all right now to win at the highest level. Now they've tried that, to their credit. You can't knock the Padres on trying this decade under Peter Seidler. I mean, they've truly given it all financially in an effort to win, trading otherwise free agency, and it hasn't perfectly worked out. Now we're on the other side, unfortunately, of that ownership group because of Peter Seidler's untimely passing, and we don't even know what it looks like. Now, to use that like analogy you've been using recently, it's like we don't even know what Monday looks like. So let's just enjoy the weekend. Because who's running the organization in 2025? Is Eric Katsenda the chairperson? Is the Seidler family? Is it under their control? Is it under another, family's control moving forward?
Dude,
but this is what we know. They're good now. So I'm not really worried about 3 years from now.
I saw the dumbest thing ever on social media.
What was it? No, it's not possible because there's a lot of dumb things on social media.
Right. There's a lot of dumb things on social media. You're absolutely right about that.
Okay.
This was a dumb thing I saw that somebody on the Chris Rose podcast or whatever podcast he does is talking about, and I probably should have put the audio.
The sugar daddy thing?
The sugar daddy thing.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So like, what? And then I saw some like random person who just rando on the internet talking about like, oh, cartel, this and that. And I'm like, and people are believing him.
Cartel?
Yeah. I'm like, give me a break. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I think Major League Baseball has a pretty good feel for the people that they have invested with.
Yeah. It's like, seriously, here's
the thing.
What's going on?
And then I see people saying, oh, I told you Soto would be back. Let's just deal in the facts. The facts are the payroll went down, and the facts are this team is good. Both things are true.
Yep.
The payroll went down, and this team is better than last year's team. Now, I'd prefer a really good team and a really high payroll long term. That's my preference. If I could just choose my organization, I want the organization that spends, and I want the organization that wins, but we can't have all things that we want in life. So they've lowered payroll, but they're positioned to win. They're not the best team in baseball, but they're positioned right now to win. They've won 9 of 11. But anything else, like you said, social media is all grain of salt. They have a sugar daddy, and they lowered their payroll. So the truth is the truth. They need players like Jackson Merrill. Because if they didn't have Jackson Merrill, they can't go pay $100 million for their center fielder every single year. They don't have that money.
Right.
As evidenced by trading away Juan Soto, would be my guess. The sugar daddy
thing. Like,
is there a GoFundMe?
I mean, stop. Oh, I've heard from people that the Padres have a really big like backer for money. I'm like,
and now Soto and Snell are coming back. What are you even talking about? That's not even dealing. First of all, even with money, Soto's not coming back.
What's this guy named? Trevor Plouffe?
Yeah, Trevor Plouffe. Played a long time in the major leagues. Yeah.
Okay.
And is on the Foul podcast show now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Again, we could say whatever we want, but when you're actually dealing in, like, if we said that every single day, nobody would take us credibly.
No, and there's a lot of people on social media that will take that for us. Like that, those people on social media, and you know who we're talking about, are the ones that take the mantle for the saying things just to say things and zero credibility.
Yeah, well, it's easier to get away with when you don't have to do it every single day, and it's not like your employment or livelihood. Like if we just came on if I was like, hey, join us at 3 p.m. We've got something we have to share with you. The Padres have a sugar daddy. Okay, you might tune in one time, and when I tried for a third consecutive time, you'd be like, this is BS.
Right.
Because there's nothing factual about it. It's cute. It gets clicks. People will talk about it. Here's what I know. They lowered their payroll. Why? Because they're going to use it all in 2025 because they had to get under the CBT because they're going to blow past it a year ago.
Right.
No, the truth is what Eric Grupner has said on the station before. They need to mesh.
Yep. They need to mesh. They need to have the young mixed with the big time contracts. Yeah. And right now you're seeing that. You are absolutely seeing that with the young and the big time contracts meshing and the, I guess, bargain deal contracts performing. Like it's in this last 11 games, it is all meshed beautifully.
Yeah, it has. You're right.
And you hope that it continues here through Texas. It's always weird when there's a day game followed by an off day.
Feels like a long
and then a
time.
Night game. You're like, this feels like forever. And hopefully that forever feeling doesn't slow down the Padres in this series versus the Rangers, who are not a really good team.
I don't think it does. Your point's valid. It feels like forever. And if there's a game where you're like, you know what? Again, the Rangers have lost 6 of 7. They'll throw Nathan Eovaldi, who's been good. Dylan Cease has been good, by and large. That's a good pitching matchup. Like, that's a really good pitching matchup here tonight. I look at it this way. If you win, I don't care if they win the series, but win the series and you are set up beautifully. I mean, you could even argue if they don't win the series, they're set up very well. But if you win the series and you're coming home for 8 games, and now all of a sudden 9 out of 11 turns into 11 out of 14 with your next 8 at home and you're red hot. Like, now you're starting to put together this really remarkable stretch that they don't do. They don't provide that to us every year. We don't say that every single day. So are we in that period of time? We might be. If they can win the series in Texas, I'm not betting against them heading into the All-Star break. That's for sure. You know?
Yeah, exactly. They get to the All-Star break continuing to play really good baseball. Man, you feel good about this team going forward. And the more wins they stack up, the less you think about the injuries.
Right.
Like, the less we're going to talk about
That's right.
the impact of these injuries. And frankly, for the last week and a half plus, yeah, we've talked a little bit about the injuries and could this impact the team. But if they keep winning, you're not talking about that at all. You're talking about the guys that are stepping up, the guys that are coming through, the guys that are helping this team win in big ways. And you're talking about Manny Machado being hot. Like, that's what you're talking about. And just a side note.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty cool that tonight, you know, they play in Texas because that's what the All-Star game is this year. And you got Jurickson Profar there. You got, by the way, Tatis. Did you see Tatis is number 3 in All-Star voting for outfielders right now?
I did, yeah.
So he could be an All-Star potentially, even though he's hurt.
I would just assume a replacement, though, technically, right?
He would be named
an All-Star, but then some. I mean, maybe the replacement is Jackson Merrill.
That'd be kind of a cool story
for Tatis. I mean, he's earned it.
Yeah, you got a couple guys there tonight. Like, you might want to check out the place a little more than you would check it out on a normal road trip because you'll be playing there in a couple of weeks.
Well, the number 1 prospect in baseball at one point was Jurickson Profar as a Texas Ranger farmhand. You're going back a decade, right? But at one point, he was as big of a prospect as there was in baseball. Correct me if I'm wrong. Again, Tatis isn't playing tonight. I don't even know if he's with them.
Probably
but
not.
The 3-0 was in Arlington, was it not?
It
the
was.
Unwritten rule.
In that ballpark, yeah.
And what did Jace Tingler say afterwards?
We'll talk to him.
A teachable moment?
Well, a teachable moment, yeah.
And what did he then later say on Eric Hosmer's podcast this year, within the last 70 days? They referenced that exact quote from Jace Tingler. And by the way, where was the 2022 postseason? It was in Arlington against the LA Dodgers after the Cardinals series.
Yep.
So, yeah, there are a lot of by the way, AJ Preller, where's his trajectory from? Where's his story told? From Texas with the Rangers. Bruce Bochy with the Rangers. It is interesting series. It is. I'm with you. There's some storylines weaving through that. The All-Star game is how long away? Is it 2 weeks from now?
2 weeks from
today. Is it a
today.
Tuesday or Wednesday? Is it
2 weeks from today? Except, yeah, today's Tuesday.
Yeah.
My days are mixed up. Yeah, 2 weeks from today.
Crazy. So you're gonna. A lot of these Padres are gonna be back there. There will be at least a few. Suarez's, Profars, maybe Merrill's, maybe a Rise, maybe Machado, who's a finalist right now.
Hey, man, if he keeps playing the way he's been playing the next couple of weeks, like he could get in and his numbers won't look as bad. You know, like when we saw Machado on the list, we're like, really? Guy doesn't even have like a 700 OPS.
Right.
I mean, shoot, if he keeps playing like he's playing, he could have damn near a 800 OPS heading to the All-Star break.
Any thoughts on, like you said, day game, off day, Machado DH today? So day game, he started third. Is that correct? On Sunday, did Machado start at third?
I'm going to say no.
Really?
I'm gonna say no on that.
Can you look that up?
Yeah, stand by.
Yeah,
Uh, he did not.
because it was a day game after a night game.
Mhm.
So he didn't start a third Sunday, had Monday off, right? And then Tuesday night, he doesn't start a third. Are we reading it all into that?
Nope. No.
Just because, keep him fresh,
Yeah,
long season, they play a lot. He's about to be 32.
yeah, you what I would guess is, you know, day game after a night game, okay? You wanna give him as much time off as possible, and if you can parlay this into essentially 2 off days because of the half day
Yeah.
on Sunday, yesterday, and then the half day today, even though they play a game tonight, right? You give him as much time as needed because I feel like a healthy Manny Machado and, like, getting to that point where he is now is so crucial for the second half.
Mhm.
And don't just be like, "Hey, we have an off day, so we'll just play him consecutive days at third." Like, I don't know about that one. Like, make sure you do everything you possibly can to keep him upright.
And I like your point is, like, you know what? You're playing well. This is the time to, like, this isn't the time to go like, I remember Bob Melvin a year ago was like, "I felt like I couldn't sit Machado, Tatis, whomever, Soto, because we needed to win." And they still need to win, but they are winning, which gives you luxuries because they are winning. So, yeah, interestingly, Machado will DH, but again, I think it's smart. There's won 9 of 11. All right, the talkback question. We will play your responses this hour. You can hit us up with the talkback mic. Has Jackson Merrill changed your opinion on the possibility of AJ Preller trading away one of his top prospects? Seeing Jackson Merrill succeed in the big leagues as a rookie, as a 21-year-old, do you think twice about using one of your top 5 prospects in a blockbuster move or not? You can hit us up with the talkback mic, open the iHeartRadio app, search for San Diego Sports 760, tap that red talkback mic. Now, Tim Haggerty is in El Paso with the Padres AAA affiliate. He's been very good to the show. He'll join us on the other side. Again, it's always an interesting time, trade deadline month in the minor leagues, because some of these guys could be dealt between now and July 30th. So we'll catch up with Tim Haggerty on the other side. Then Scott Miller, New York Times. He's covered the Padres for a good bulk of his career. He's going to join us coming up at 5 p.m. So we're just underway. We're with you until 6 p.m. Again, you can hit us up on that talkback mic. We'll play your responses later this hour. This is Jon and Jim. All right, Tim Haggerty is the voice of the Padres AAA affiliate, the El Paso Chihuahuas. He'll join us next.
This update is brought to you by Staples Stores. Padres start a 3-game series with the Texas Rangers tonight in Texas. 5:10 first pitch. Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres. And today, the future All-Stars future game roster was announced. Ethan Salas and Robbie Snelling are 2 players on the futures roster. With Staples Hot Deals, you'll find super low prices on hundreds of items for back to school right now. 24-pack Crayola crayons and comp books are just 50 cents each at Staples, plus save even more with the Easy Rewards program. In-store only, offer ends 8/24, limited to 20. Save big on back to school at Staples.
Jackson Merrill's success make you think twice about moving some of the top prospects in the organization at the deadline this year. You can hit us up on that TalkBack mic. Just open the free iHeartRadio app. Listen to San Diego Sports 760. Tap that little microphone icon next to the play button to leave a 30-second talkback. We'll play your responses later this hour. I'll ask that to Tim Haggerty, who's the voice of the El Paso Chihuahuas, AAA affiliate of the San Diego Padres. So, Tim, we appreciate you. You see the rise in the ascent of Jackson Merrill. It doesn't always work like this. He's only 21. He's been one of the best players in baseball, honestly, this year. Knowing that that's happened, you think that changes anything from an organizational perspective about other top prospects they have in the organization now that we're in this critical month of July when trades are often made?
Yeah, I think in our jobs and with fans, we so often look back at trades, sometimes regretfully, but I think we should all totally accept that when you trade a prospect, there is a potential that they'll become a very good major leaguer. I mean, there's probably Padres fans that see James Wood called to the majors and see Mackenzie Gore pitching well and see C.J. Abrams playing well, and they think about the Juan Soto deal. But those same fans were so excited the day that the Padres got Juan Soto. I mean, you're not going to get a player like that unless you give up some players that have potential like that. So I don't know if it does change it. I think general managers realize that when they trade a big prospect that they could become Jackson Merrill.
Yeah, and I the other night, you just look at highlights from the NLCS in 2022. It's like, I don't think anybody was complaining about that when Juan Soto was coming with big hits against the Dodgers. Yeah. When you look at this roster right now in El Paso, one player down there, Johnny Brito, is expected to be stretched out. What's his plan going forward? And what do you see from him as far as a starter goes?
Yeah, he made his first start for El Paso on Sunday at Round Rock. It was a really interesting pitching matchup that we get to see in AAA. You had Johnny Brito, a young and talented pitcher on one side, against Johnny Cueto, the 38-year-old, trying to get back to the majors who I just heard opted out of his Rangers contract and is available out there. But Brito on Sunday was outstanding in his first 2 innings. The radar gun's showing 98 on his fastball, had 6 up and 6 down. After that, though, did allow 4 runs in the next couple of innings. And to me, that looks like somebody who was used to throwing in the bullpen, that maybe his first couple of innings were a lot sharper than innings 3 and 4. So, yeah, my understanding is he's here to become a starting pitcher for El Paso. Not that he was pitching poorly in the majors. He was, as you guys saw, appearing in a lot of games for San Diego. But as far as how long he'll be here, I'm not sure. Sometimes, as you guys have observed, the needs of the major leagues will prompt that. I think that we all thought Adam Mazur would end up in the majors this year, but maybe he got there sooner than expected because of some pitching injuries.
Tim Haggerty is the voice of the El Paso Chihuahuas. He's with us right now on Jon and Jim San Diego Sports 760. So you're familiar, of course, with Nabil Crismatt. Obviously, not just time in the big leagues, but he's pitched in El Paso previously as well. He's back with the Padres organization. What's the plan here, and could this just be the right organization for Nabil potentially to contribute at some point this year?
Yeah, the word I heard was depth, having somebody that they know that, as Padres fans remember, was a great long man. He was somebody that if you were up by a lot of runs or behind by a lot of runs, he'd go in there and soak up 3 or 4 innings at a time. So he's pitched once in relief for El Paso. He will actually start a game for El Paso this week on a fill-in role. So to me, I think that's his value. He's a known commodity, somebody who can do a bunch of different things, very well liked and regarded within the organization. I happened to be in the clubhouse when he was just getting settled in Round Rock, and the familiar faces just really gravitated toward him and having him back. And I think that that's a really important trait to have. Somebody like him who's now 29 years old. He's pitched for 3 different organizations this year already. He opted out of his contract with the Texas Rangers after not getting a major league opportunity there. But earlier in the year was in the majors with the Dodgers.
When you look at the minors in the AAA, why is it so difficult, and why do you see such high ERAs in AAA from pitchers down there?
It's interesting. When I look at a major league schedule for 15 games on a Friday night, do you guys ever just stop and look at the starting pitchers? So many of them have been around forever. Like so many are just recognizable names. I just feel like the starting pitcher position over the past couple of years, there just are few of them that can stick up there. That's not exclusive to the Padres. That is everywhere. In every city that the Chihuahuas go to, you're seeing some similar names of guys that are up and down between the majors and AAA. I think the game has just evolved where it's full of veterans that are keeping those jobs, and training methods are getting better and better. Pitchers are throwing harder and harder, and batters are stronger and stronger. That, for whatever reason, you just don't see as many guys that go up through the minor leagues and then they become a major league starting pitcher for 5-6 years.
Tim Haggerty, voice of the Chihuahuas, with us right now. Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. I'm sure you've had this conversation a zillion times, Tim. We've even asked you about it. From an organizational or scouting perspective, how do they know what they're seeing is capable of, what they do in AAA is then, what they get in the big leagues? Or how do you make sure not to get carried away with the numbers? To Jim's point, you might see an ERA in AAA of 6, but that doesn't mean they can't contribute because there's some factors that go into it in the PCL, travel, elevation, etc. Or from a hitter perspective, you see someone hitting 350, that doesn't mean they're going to hit 350, obviously, in the major league. So how do you know what's real and isn't when it comes to AAA numbers and stats?
Absolutely. And I think even a decade ago, even in different minor leagues, I heard executives say that, what a hard decision it is. Here's an example from a long time ago. I know the Padres in 2011 were really torn on when to bring up Anthony Rizzo. He was so young, but his minor league statistics were so good, and he struggled. Sometimes it just takes a while. I mean, this year with Baltimore, Jackson Holliday being sent back down to the minor leagues, sent back to Norfolk, Virginia, after looking like the number 1 prospect in the game. I think that part has always been hard, knowing when to bring a player up. But as far as evaluating the statistics, I think there's some things that are universal. I've heard Padres people just really looking to have their pitchers avoid walks, and that happens no matter what ballpark or what level you're pitching in. I think also these days, with the way that they can analyze pitches and their movement and their spin, they can factor that into certain environments and project if it's going to play in the major leagues. And I do think it's short-sighted to maybe look at only the ERA. I mean, look at Logan Gillespie with El Paso. He's got a 4.44 ERA, pretty good for the PCL. His brief outings with the Padres have been outstanding. I don't even know if he's allowed a base runner yet, never mind a run in a couple of games. So what they're seeing here, they know that he can go up there and fill in when needed and be dependable.
Whenever AJ Preller is the GM of your organization, there's always a concern about, how much prospects he could be moving in a single season. How is it being with the minor league club every single day in AAA and around the trade deadline? Like, what is the feeling around the minors when, at any moment these guys could be shipped off because AJ Preller is just so active when it comes to the trade deadline, especially on all the rumors as well?
I think that it really depends which player you talk to. And the difference for me is a lot of AAA rosters are full of veteran guys. As you remember from broadcasting games at Lehigh Valley, you're covering players who in some cases are in their 30s. They've been around the block. They know that this could happen any given time. I think when it becomes really raw for the player is when they're younger and maybe they haven't gone through that as much. But you're absolutely right. Come late July, it's a really interesting time to be around a AAA team. I remember years ago, there was a player who did end up going and playing for the Padres in the majors, and he walked up to me and he said, "Hey, just between you and me, what do you think the Padres are going to do at the deadline?" Because his brain is thinking, if this guy gets traded, maybe I'll get a shot again to go back to the Padres. The advice that executives tell people across all organizations when they talk to players is don't play GM, because players who've been to the majors have told me sometimes they absolutely did not see it coming at all that they were going to be called up. Other times they were sure when this guy got traded or this guy got hurt that they were going to be called up, and they weren't. And it's good advice. Just focus on that day's game, because it's so hard for them not to. I mean, we all have our smartphones these days. All of us have access to the social media sites that are putting out these rumors, and it would be hard to not react to that if you see your name in one.
Unpredictable time of year for really all players across Major League Baseball into the month of July. Tim, we appreciate it. We know you've got a game tonight. El Paso and Albuquerque down in El Paso tonight to kick off a series against the Isotopes. So thank you for doing it. We'll do it again at some point, hopefully later in July or early August. And thanks for hopping on here in San Diego.
Sounds great. Thanks, John.
All right. Tim Haggerty, voice of the Chihuahuas. So I'm fairly convinced.
I'm 100% convinced
that Tim believes Jon and Jim is John.
Correct.
And that we're the same person.
Correct.
Now, there's other people who have said that before. Like, oh, you guys sound the same. I don't think we sound the same.
No.
But then again, why would I think that?
Whoever is the more polished guy, it's not Jim, it's John.
I'm the polished dude. Jim's just like by the seat of his pants, like off the cuff. John Conniff today in studio. He's like, Jim, I was hoping to meet you. I'm like, I'm John. He's, oh yeah, I know.
John Conniff. The picture, my picture is on my social media of what I look like.
Right. Mine too. Yours
is more like a cartoon though, right?
No, it's me, dude. What are you talking about? This is no cartoon. It's not. This isn't EA Sports.
Oh, sorry. My bad. You had another one a while.
Oh, I did for a while. Yeah.
For a while.
All right.
Sports.
I don't know.
It's in the game.
It's in the game. All right. On the other side, you can open up that iHeartRadio app if you want to hit us up on the Talkback mic. With Jackson Merrill's success, do you think twice about trading away top prospects in the Padres organization? We want to hear from you, Padres fans. We can play some of those talkbacks on the other side. Open the app, search for San Diego Sports 760, tap that Talkback mic, and we'll play your 30-second responses on the other side. Plus, why did the Lakers draft Bronny? What is the new head coach saying about it for the Lakers? We'll explain on the other side. That's next. All right, what is JJ Redick saying about the Lakers drafting Bronny? Why did they do it? Plus your talkbacks. You can open up that iHeartRadio app and you can click that little microphone icon. We'll play your talkbacks coming up next. Five. Works with New York, cover the Padres for a long time. He'll join us at 5 p.m. as the Padres and Rangers kick off their 3-game series. We've got the wrap coming up next hour. So they've spoken on Bronny, they being the Lakers.
Well, they actually had a press conference today with Bronny.
Yes.
And their first overall pick, or I guess their first round draft pick.
Correct. So they've spoken on Bronny.
Bronny spoke, yes.
Yes, Bronny spoke, but so did the Lakers about Bronny.
Oh, yes, they have as well. Yeah. Everybody has spoke about Bronny, and Bronny's also spoken as well.
And by the way, he's got a full guaranteed deal. That second round pick, it's not a two-way, it's not an exhibit deal. He's got a full guaranteed rookie deal.
Full guarantee
rookie deal. Why did the Lakers draft Bronny? This is JJ Redick, the new head coach of the Lakers.
With Bronny, I want to clarify one thing you just said, which is Rob and I did not give Bronny anything. Bronny has earned this, right? Bronny talks about his hard work. Bronny has earned this through hard work. And for us, prioritizing player development, we view Bronny as like case study one, because his base level of feel, athleticism, point of attack defender, shooting, passing, there's a lot to like about his game. And as we sort of build out our player development program holistically, he's going to have a great opportunity to become an excellent NBA player.
Yeah, I was thinking about this today, and I listened to that press conference.
Yeah.
Oh, most of it, not all of it, right? I feel really bad for Bronny because he has done nothing but all the right things. Everything he's done, everything he said, the draft process, going to the combine, like he's done nothing wrong here. Nothing. The problem is we know society, and if you do nothing wrong, it still doesn't matter. You can get destroyed on social media for doing absolutely nothing. And because of this, the perception is that LeBron has the power and wielded his power to make sure the Lakers drafted his son. Because if the Lakers didn't draft his son, nobody else is drafting Bronny.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to get upset with that, you can get upset with that. But anything towards Bronny is completely out of bounds in my opinion, because he's done nothing wrong.
Yeah, and though that's accurate, it's like he's the, what is it when you're like caught
rock and hard place?
Yeah, that, but also like wrong place, wrong time. Like you can't do anything about. He's just in the story. He was forced into it, not by his own choosing. I said this earlier in the week, or maybe it was last week. When it comes to being the son of LeBron James, there's good and bad. There's a lot of good in there. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
But there's other parts of it. And like you said previously, LeBron has been quoted before saying if he could do it over again, he probably wouldn't have named his son LeBron because he wants him to carve out his own path. It feels as if the path and the story is being written for him a little bit.
A little
where
bit.
It wouldn't necessarily be playing out that way if his father wasn't LeBron James. But not that it's a bad. I'm sure he's got an amazing relationship with his father. I'm just saying that because his father is who he is, the story's different than it would be.
Like it feels, everything feels very forced. Like the draft pick, just everything. It just feels weird. Like, doesn't it feel weird to you, John, about this whole thing? You're like, I want to feel happy for Bronny because, I mean, I got drafted. At the same time, it feels like a really, really weird situation that he got himself put into. And I just hope for his sake, I do hope he succeeds, because if he doesn't, man, is he going to get crushed, and it's not going to be right.
And would JJ Redick say the same thing about a player that had a different name?
No.
So that's the thing. Like, would he say the same thing about anyone that wasn't Bronny James? Like, is he being fully truthful there?
No.
Because it's hard to think that he is.
No.
As I say, they're not doing him any favors either by, putting him on TV and constantly reminding us, oh no, he earned this, everybody. No, he earned it, to where it's just like, just kind of drift off then and just let the season start. You don't have to have, him do press conferences and just have it be in the news every single day, and it just kind of fade away. And I think people will just, let it go and, let him sit on the bench and plays 2 minutes a game and just, that's it.
It's going to be hard to go away. I mean, listen, draft picks are introduced. I was on social media and I saw there was a second round pick that was introduced today, or
all
whatever.
Draft picks are introduced.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the Lakers. So
again, I get it. I mean,
television.
second round picks probably aren't getting a lot of questions traditionally compared to first round picks. Like, there's not a lot of attention on second round picks, would be my guess, around the NBA, other than Bronny. Like, whoever the Warriors took in the second round, I don't think it's a huge story, would be my guess. In Golden State, like, I doubt there's a big.
They didn't take anybody because they traded it.
Perfect. So it wasn't a big story at all. The Bronny story is not going anywhere.
No,
is the truth. And now that he's got this guaranteed NBA deal, they'll have to figure out a way to deal with that. Like you said, if it falls on its face, okay, it's a second round pick. But I feel like they've kind of created this thing where they can fall on their face because they drafted him.
I just hope that, and you get a fully guaranteed contract. You can go to the G League, right?
I don't know how it works. I mean, he's going to be paid
either.
as if he's an NBA. Whatever he signed is a fully guaranteed NBA contract.
I just think, again, the best course of action for him is to develop as much as he possibly can.
How do you do that?
You can't. It was so crazy to me today that I saw a post interview they had, like, on Spectrum, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
They had a one-on-one with Bronny. And they asked him, how does it feel knowing that you're going to be playing, you'll be getting to play with Anthony Davis? And I'm thinking to myself, guys,
they're going to be on the floor together for like 2 seconds.
Maybe no seconds.
Right.
Because the only time Bronny's going to be on the floor is probably in garbage time. And when you have a guy that's only going to be on the floor in garbage time, you're not doing right by him at all. Because he needs to develop. He needs to play. The only way you get better is to play. Like, the only way you get better on radio is to be on the radio.
Yep.
Right? So you have to go and put him in a position to develop and play basketball. If he is on the NBA team for the entire year and doesn't play more than like 6 minutes in a game, the Lakers are doing so wrong by Bronny by doing this.
Also, what about like these guys that they're missing out on? The Klay Thompsons, good players. You could say that Klay Thompson's not the same player. That's fine, coming off injuries, and that's fair. Are some of these free agents that are saying thanks but no thanks? Like, I don't want to deal with this charade. I mean, not saying it publicly, but are you thinking that? Klay Thompson, again, the difference between the Mavericks and the Lakers is a team that could win the NBA title and a team that can't. So that's significant. But are other players electing to go elsewhere because they don't want to deal with this?
There's no other players, though. Like, there was no, like, Paul George turned it down. He didn't turn anything down.
Okay, Klay Thompson then is my example.
Right.
Is that a fair example? No. Now, is it as simple as it's just Dallas and LA, and Dallas is a better chance to win, and that's why he chose it? Or is there another motive that goes into that. I mean, shoot, his father's obviously calling games for the Lakers.
Here's the thing with Clay. He's a very weird guy. He just is. All right. He said he felt slighted by the Warriors for not getting paid.
Right.
Even though he did get paid with his max contract after he tore his ACL. Then the Warriors did offer him a contract, which was larger than the Mavericks did. And he chose Dallas. It's been reported that he chose Dallas because obviously you have more stability there with the coaching staff instead of playing for a podcaster and JJ Redick. You have a team that just went to the finals. All right. You also, which has been reported, you're going to a state that you don't have to get taxed on any of your money. And he just feels like the role is better there than what he would be doing in LA with the Lakers. So Rob Pelinka and LeBron could do everything in their power to try to get Clay there. If Clay just doesn't choose the Lakers, is that on the Lakers?
Well, yeah, but that's free agency. I mean, point taken. I mean, the players got all the power.
Right.
So that's, but I'm saying, you say, oh, well, there's no state tax in Texas. Fair. But I'm saying, do you want to deal with the charade of LeBron and Bronny?
That is also a good point. And also dealing with a brand new head coach in JJ Redick,
right,
who's never coached above.
And LeBron's eventual retirement tour coming at some point soon, too.
Right.
And to be fair, his own dad couldn't talk him into coming to the Lakers. Did you see that article today that Michael was very disappointed that he chose Dallas? He chose Dallas over LA. Yeah.
There's that too. On the other side, we will get to the wrap. Still ahead over the next couple of hours. Scott Miller from the New York Times on the Padres into the second half of the season. Great baseball writer for the Times. Has covered the Padres for a lot of his career. Scott Miller will join us coming up at 5 p.m. We are with you until 6. We're getting you ready for Padres and Rangers. Hour 2 of Jon and Jim is next.
This update is brought to you by Staples Stores. Padres and Rangers start a 3-game series later this afternoon. 5:10 first pitch. Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres. In the Futures game, All-Stars have been announced. Ethan Salas and Robbie Snelling are the representatives from the Padres organization. With Staples Hot Deals, you'll find super low prices on hundreds of items for back to school right now. 24-pack Crayola crayons and comp books are just 50 cents each at Staples. Plus, save even more with the Easy Rewards program in store only. Offer ends 8/24. Limited to 20. Save big on back to school at Staples.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 2 of Jon and Jim. We are with you until 6 p.m. We have injury updates from Mike Schild that we will share with you coming up later this hour. We'll do that actually at 4:30. Also, coming up at 5 p.m., we'll be joined by Scott Miller, New York Times, to talk about the Padres into the second half of the season. We're getting ready for the Rangers series. The big Padres-Rangers series will begin later on today, the first of a 3-game series after an off day yesterday for San Diego.
Again, I hope that the time that it's felt like since the last game played isn't going to slow them down at all in this series. And it's nice to start out the series with Dylan Cease on the mound.
All right. So again, we're going to be joined coming up at 5 p.m. by Scott Miller from the New York Times. You'll hear from Mike Schild coming up later this hour. But right now, let's get to this.
Are you guys surprised the Lakers gave Bronny a guaranteed NBA contract?
Yes and no. It's Bronny, so whatever he does is going to get reported on. I bet you there's at least one other player that was drafted in the second round that's getting a guaranteed contract from their team.
Yeah, I agree.
And guess
Definitely.
what? They're not Bronny James, so guess what? It's not going to be reported.
Mm-hmm.
It's anything he does from now on, it will be in the spotlight. Until he either fizzles out or he actually turns into a pretty good player.
Yeah, like to your point, the first points in the career of Tyler Kolek with the Trailblazers, the 36th overall pick out of Marquette, a really good point guard, nobody's going to be talking about. The first Tyler Kolek points in the NBA will not be discussed anywhere.
No.
You may not see it in Portland, and he's on the Trailblazers. The first points for Bronny will lead SportsCenter.
Yeah.
There's a decent chance.
And there's two things here, because the clutch backers in the media, and
right.
Who aren't the clutch guys in the media. But this whole notion that, man, we should be praising this story because of how cool it is that an NBA dad or an NBA player who's a dad gets to now play with his son. That's all cool. Yeah, that's great. But what people are talking about is this isn't like Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr., where Ken Griffey Jr. was a phenom. This is a guy who a lot of draft experts said should not be drafted. And he needs a lot of time to develop before even stepping a foot on the NBA court. That's the difference. It's a cool story. Don't get me wrong. But it'd be even cooler is if Bronny was good. And if Bronny, made an impact with his dad right away, like what Ken Griffey Jr. did with Ken Griffey Sr., like what Barry Bonds did with his dad. Like, the father-son duos, I know it's never happened in the NBA. It's only happened in baseball and, hockey, whatever. But in baseball, the father-son duos, the sons were really, really freaking good. Like the ones that we talk about.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like it's not personal. He didn't draft himself. It just feels like in sports that are so much based on what you earn.
Yeah.
That's the part that makes it tricky. Again, I'm just looking, I pulled it up as we were talking about second round picks. Like I'm looking at a guy that was taken like 5 spots in front of him who was unbelievable. Tristan Newton at UConn, 5th-year player, did absolutely everything for the Huskies, winning national championships, winning at a ridiculous clip, playing all these minutes. And I don't even know if he's getting a guaranteed deal. Yeah. And again, that's no one's fault.
No.
It's just a factual statement. Next question.
Who's the biggest winner of NBA free agency so far?
I would say right now, I'm going to go with the 76ers.
Paul George?
I think Paul George can make a bigger impact than Klay Thompson could with the Dallas Mavericks. I think Klay's going to definitely make an impact there. But I think on a night in and night out basis, Paul George is going to be that guy. But, you know, when you have Paul George and Joel Embiid on your team, that's even worse combo for injuries than Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, it feels like.
I just feel like here's how I look at it. The last time we saw these teams, Dallas is in the NBA Finals. I know it's not as simple as that, but I feel like Klay Thompson's addition could mean more, and here's why I say it. I think the Sixers are predicated solely on Embiid's health, and he's never healthy. He's never had a postseason where he's been fully healthy. If Embiid's not healthy, this doesn't at all matter in any regard.
Nope.
Maxey, Paul George, none of it matters at all.
Right.
You have to have Embiid healthy. Where from the Dallas perspective, I'm like, you know what? I've seen it. They've been good. Is this a difference-making piece potentially for the Mavericks in 2024? And I'm not saying it is, but I could see it more than I could be convinced that the Sixers are going to win an NBA title because of the addition of Paul George. We'll see. Next question.
Is Klay Thompson one of the top 75 players in NBA history?
Well, a couple years ago, they did name the top 75 players.
Was he on the list?
And he was, I guess, technically 77th or 76th. Like,
well, that's what people say, or there was a list and they're like, yo, you're the first guy out.
I remember he did not get picked for the all 75 team. And he wore a jersey the next day that was number 76 on it. Like, I'm the 76th best player.
Okay, that's according to him.
I know, but a lot of people were also wondering why he wasn't on the list.
Well, has he gotten better since the 75th anniversary team was announced?
No, he's not a top. Again, I don't have the list in front of me. He's a Hall of Famer for sure, first ballot.
Yeah,
but,
he will be.
But top 75, I need to see the list. I don't think.
Let's run through all 75
Perfect.
players.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it right now.
Yeah, again, it's so subjective, obviously.
I'm looking at ESPN's top 100 or whatever, and I'm in the 70s now. Like, they have Dame Lillard at 75, Dave Bing at 74, some other dude who played for the Knicks a long time ago. I can't even say his name.
Oh, the other dude.
Oh, the other dude. Well, the NBA
Billy
had
Cunningham. Look, they have AD at 71.
Right. Well, the NBA
So
had
he
a
should.
top 75 player team. To your point, now that's not the finished story because basketball's been played since they announced this team, whenever that was. So, listen, whatever it is, to your point, he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He'll have 4 rings at least to his name. He's got all those series wins in the postseason with Golden State. He's had an amazing career. Now, injuries have changed it and derailed it a little bit in the second half of his career. But if he's not a top 75 player, maybe he's a top 100 player, which is impressive in its own right. Next question.
Do you think Jackson Merrill should make the All-Star team?
I think that Jackson Merrill should absolutely make the All-Star team. No question about it. He is one of the best center fielders in the National League right now. He has put together a amazing first half of his season so far. He's red hot, and he deserves it. Absolutely deserves it. No, I'm not just sitting here trying to be some type of homer because you know that's not who I am. Jackson Merrill has played his way onto this team because the numbers don't lie. Everybody around him in the National League, he's pretty much better than in center field.
It's a sham if he's not on the team. Here's why. And thank you. Credit to Too Much Morton's on Twitter. League average for center fielders is basically a below average offensive player. League average center fielders are below average offensively this year, and Merrill's 28% better than league average. He's earned it fair and square. He's been as good of a center fielder as there is in the National League. Now, voters can vote. That's fine. If he's not voted onto the team as a starter, understood. That's based on vote. But he's earned a spot on the team as a reserve. 2.5 WAR is ridiculous. A 5 WAR season for a rookie. With everything he's done, especially lately, his OPS is pushing 800. He's hit for power here over the last month. There's no reason he should not be on this team. There's not one legitimate reason. I'm with you. We're in San Diego. It's easy to say, put the whole team on the team. We don't do it. Jackson, and by the way, I'll raise my hand. Guilty as charged. I was critical of their decision to start Jackson Merrill in center field to begin the year. I didn't think he would do this. I'll take accountability for that. That's fine. We're all right on things and wrong on things, but this is inarguable. He's earned his spot on this team. Now, there's politics. Every team's got to have a player. There's fan vote. I don't know if he's going to make his way on it, but I'm telling you, if he's not on the team, it's a sham because he's earned his way onto the team.
Yep. He has not proven people wrong. because I don't think you were wrong about Jackson Merrill. I just think that
I didn't think you would do it this soon.
The questions were completely valid. We never said, no one said
there's questions
on us like, oh, he's going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
There were
no, you're right.
You can have questions and not be deemed a hater.
Right,
it's just ridiculous how those things work out. Like, the questions were 100% valid. And if you don't think so, I don't know what to tell you. But all the questions that were had for Jackson Merrill, he has answered every single one of them, right?
Every single one.
And he has kind of exceeded expectations so far. I didn't know if he was going to be a 20 home run guy in his first season. Guess what? He probably is a 20 home run guy in his first season.
Sure.
You know, like if he continues on this path with the power surge that he has had recently. But yeah, if he's not on the All-Star team, I just don't know. I don't know what to say about that.
How about his offseason? You go into it, he's a shortstop. Now, they tell him in the offseason, he was quoted in a podcast today. I think it's Baseball Isn't Boring podcast. He was quoted as saying this: I didn't even train in center field. I trained in left field the whole offseason, and I got to spring training, and that's when they're like, hey, you're in center. And I was like, oh, crap. He used a different word.
Yep.
I didn't even do any center field. I was doing left field, but I'm happy it went the way it went. Jackson Merrill on his offseason. From shortstop a year ago, Fort Wayne guys, struggling. First half of the year. To the offseason, hey, we might need you in the outfield. Well, Juan Soto's out the door. You may have a role immediately in the outfield and left. And then, oh, by the way, I forget about left for a moment. We got Profar. We signed him late February. How about center? I mean, that's a crazy offseason. And to just do this should be like, there should be a lot of attention on it. And there is locally. I don't think there really is nationally. This is not Paul Skeens nationally. It just isn't. Nope. It has not been that story at all.
But when he has been on a national stage, he's actually performed.
Definitely.
Like, that's a huge thing, is when this team has played on the national stage, he has performed in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just going to be hard to look past him on the national level. And if he does make the All-Star game, which he should, then his stock is just going to rise, just go through the roof as far as national publicity goes. I think he has this kind of it factor to him. And to hear those quotes about never playing in center field and being like, oh crap, like, what do we do? Like, and to basically look like a guy that's a 10-year vet in center field defensively.
Remember the articles? I don't know if it was Kevin or Dennis or both, but this idea that he will inevitably struggle. And when he does, how quickly does he get out of it? Mm-hmm. Remember that tenor, that type of article that was written, I don't know, in March, February, maybe even in April. There have been some periods maybe over these 85-ish games where they haven't been as good as the last 2 weeks, where he's been amazing. But he's never completely fallen off a cliff. There has not been an 0 for 30. It's not been a 1 for 29. There hasn't been drop balls in center, right? There haven't been terrible routes. There's been nothing. In fact, I don't have it in front of me. I bet Luis Ariz maybe has had a longer 0 for this year than Jackson Merrill. Think about that. I'm not convinced of it, but they're comparable. I'm telling Merrill's longest 0 for is not discernibly longer than Luis Ariz's longest 0 for this year. Certainly not longer than Manny Machado's.
That's wild.
Right?
I know.
I mean, it seems like that. If I'm off, I'm off. 70470, start it with team. But I'm watching, and you guys are too. There was a period of time where he wasn't as good, obviously, as he is right now this year. But maybe he had 3 consecutive games without a hit, but I don't think he's had 4. I could look it up at the game logs. It's proving our collective point, which is like, this guy is like the star on the Padres. I mean, they have a number of them, but you could argue he's right there with the stars of the Padres moving forward. That's for sure.
And hopefully he's back in Texas in a couple of weeks.
Right.
Where he's going to play tonight in the All-Star game.
That's pretty crazy.
Has Schilt been asked about that? Like, at all? Like,
maybe
has there
today
been any campaign about, hey, what do you think of Jackson Merrill making the All-Star game? Because that's like a 100% valid question for everybody to be asking right now. Like, yes, he's been hot of late, but that doesn't take away the fact that his overall numbers are better than a lot of center fielders in the National League. Actually, I think he's the best in the National League.
But you make a good point, because for about a month, I'd say mid-May to mid-June, he's asked, hey, what do you think of Jurickson Profar? Is Jurickson Profar an all-star? And he's singing his praises every night for like a month. And then eventually he's like, I'm done with it. He's an all-star. This is so, it's stupid. He's the leading vote getter in the National League. He's an all-star. But now it's like you turn your attention to Jackson Merrill. It's a good point. I feel like for a month straight, everyone's like, hey, Profar's an all-star, right? And he's like, yeah, he's an all-star. Well, at what point are you like, hey, Merrill's an all-star, right? Yeah, he's an all-star. Maybe that's already happened. Maybe he's already done. Maybe he's already stamped his spot on the team. But I don't know if it's as simple as that with every team needing representatives. And if you're not starting, if it's going to be like possible or not. I think it's possible.
Do you like that rule?
The question is old as time, right?
Exactly.
The question is old as time. No, I think it's dumb.
I agree. It's stupid.
I think it's dumb. Am I going to watch in Miami because Jesus Luzardo with a 5.79 ERA is on the team? Now he's injured.
Right. But I get your point.
Yeah. Am I going to watch because name a team that's the White Sox representative is Tommy Pham. Now, oh man, Chicago's numbers are huge. Everyone's watching for Tommy Pham. You see, he got in a bat in the 8th. So I don't. It goes back to our Bronny conversation. Just earn it.
Yeah.
But they get cute here. It's like the fan vote. You want the fans to play a large role in things like these type of events, NBA, all-star events. But then also you want it to be earned. You don't want the worst player in the National League starting at first base because you got the fan vote.
Like if somebody from the Chicago White Sox named representative, obviously they're going to get Garrett Crochet. He deserves it. He deserves it.
Unless he's traded. Yeah, but fair.
I'm trying to think of another bad team. Let's go with the Colorado Rockies.
Sure.
All right. They don't have anybody on that team that's deserving.
Right.
And then they're going to get somebody. And you're sitting there being like, man, I was an all-star that year, but
Ryan McMahon,
the only reason why I was an all-star is because we needed a representative. Like, that's not like something that you should feel proud of.
Right. Like the NBA now, the NBA's got 30 teams and the rosters aren't 30 guys.
But the problem in baseball, the rosters are like 38 in the all-star game.
I know.
Or something crazy.
Just to fit on Ryan McMahon and whomever else.
Like, if you're going to do this by the book, or not by the book, but if you're going to do it to make it seem like a regular game,
make it 26
guys.
Guys. Yeah, but you also know, like, the organization's like, oh, you can't pitch more than an inning, Garrett Crochet. And
you can't even pitch.
He can't even pitch. He pitched yesterday.
So the whole thing is just, I don't know.
I'm with you.
I don't mind that everyone gets in because we complain all the time about how baseball doesn't market their new young stars. And now it's like, oh, well, let's just take, close to half the league and just not have them even be present at the All-Star game. And it's like, how are you going to promote future stars? You said the Rockies. The Rockies have to have at least one guy.
Sure.
That's at least having a decent season.
That
doesn't mean just because a team sucks, that doesn't mean that every single player sucks.
Well, even if
you can't market the young stars, like I said, if you just exclude close to half the league and then just, go a whole weekend of hyping up the league and the future of the league. And then it's like, oh yeah, but 12 teams are not represented here. That tells you what we think of them.
Well, when you say young stars, like if they're playing well, then they're going to be in the All-Star game. Like they're not.
Yeah, but that also goes to our thing about baseball being regional. We could have people out here that play for the Padres that we consider stars, but if you go to the Midwest or the East Coast, they're going to go, who the hell's that guy? Why does he deserve to be in the All-Star game?
Well, also the baseball way is just appeal to like 8 markets. So it's almost anti-baseball that they let everyone get a fair shake. Isn't it true? How many times have you heard this complaint? Sunday Night Baseball is Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs, Cardinals, and Dodgers, Giants. Those are the 3 series you would see on Sunday Night Baseball. I mean, baseball's always played its cards close to its markets. Like it's a Yankees, Red Sox, Dodgers, Giants, Cubs league. That's the perception of the league. It's almost like San Diego's not allowed in that club, right? There was pushback when Peter Seidler was spending. Oh man, is this good for baseball? The way they're not the Yankees. Why is this good for? So like it's their own fault. They made this bed. They want 8 teams to be relevant. Yet we have to have a Devil Ray in the All-Star game. Bad example because they've been historically good, but we have to have a Marlin in the All-Star game.
We have to have a Rocky in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I mean, again, at the end of the day.
But that's the thing, though, is if having a player from every team knocks out a guy like Jackson Merrill from making it.
That's where I have
who deserves it.
Right.
And that's the problem with it. And it's not about the young stars. It's about who deserves it and who doesn't deserve it. And if a guy in the Rockies makes it because they need someone on the Rockies, but he's hitting 262, and you're going to have that guy in, and you're not choosing Jackson Merrill because you already have a Padres player in Jurickson Profar, and you need, I don't know. The whole thing is just, again, it's not what it was like it used to be, where it was cool to watch everybody stand on the foul line in their own jerseys, because now the jerseys are horrific.
Everything's for sale. Right.
And it just doesn't have the same feel to it at all.
No, it doesn't. And that's the other argument about, like, hey, don't you want to market your stars? Like, Brian, look at these. This is the rating trend with the MLB All-Star Game. That's all you need to know. I mean, it went from, and again, maybe this is everything. It's not the NFL. It's not the NBA.
That's probably baseball ratings in general.
You're right. You're right.
All-Star Game.
But from a 22.5 rating in 1993 to a 5, you know what I mean? I mean, it's just the trends. And it's not like this is going to have some type of audience that's like a World Series audience or an NBA Finals audience. It's not.
Well, again, and I'm not saying like Bud Selig was the end all be all, and it has to do with players and I get that. But also, you once again, when you have someone who's incompetent running, or the face of a company or a brand or whatever organization in Rob Manfred, like leading the charge for Major League Baseball, you are doomed to fail. And that's in any walk of life. If you have somebody in a position of power, it's like that doesn't know what they're doing, that place is doomed to fail. And baseball, you're seeing what's happening.
Let's see what the updates are, because really the concern right now at the Padres is their health. Is they're playing really good baseball. So the concern is their health. Can they continue to do this with all these absences? We'll hear from Mike Schild on the other side. Still ahead. Again, coming up at 5 p.m., we'll be joined by Scott Miller, great baseball and Padres voice from the New York Times. Will join us at 5 p.m. We're leading you up to Padres and Rangers tonight. Stay with us on Jon and Jim. Injury updates on Padres stars from the manager himself, Mike Shildt, coming up next.
This update is brought to you by Staples Stores. Padres start a 3-game series with the Texas Rangers tonight in Arlington. 5:10 first pitch. Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres. With Staples hot deals, you'll find super low prices on hundreds of items for back to school right now. 24-pack Crayola crayons and comp books are just 50 cents each at Staples, plus save even more with the Easy Rewards program. In-store only. Offer ends 8/24, limited to 20. Save big on back to school at Staples.
All right, Padres and Rangers coming up later on this afternoon from Arlington. Game 1 of a 3-game series. Padres then wrap up the first half, so to speak, at home with 8 consecutive home games. Now, again, they've won 9 of 11 games coming into this. They were off yesterday. Manny Machado's going to DH here today for consecutive games, but everything's going really well other than the injuries, which, again, is all we talk about if they weren't playing well. But they're playing well, so it takes a little bit of a backseat. So here's Mike Shildt this afternoon, part of a scrum, talking about Dylan Cease, how good he's been recently. Also some injury updates on some of these Padres players.
Dylan Cease going today. He's looked like he's back to being the dominant Dylan Cease the last couple of outings. Your thoughts on how he's been throwing?
Yeah, he's been really good. You know, he's been able to mix in some other pitches, but throwing in a little bit more, opening up some of his other lanes. But he's been really, really good.
Can you give us an update on the list? I mean, we have Joe Musgrove, you, Cotty, Andy, Xander. Where do you want to begin?
We'll start with Bogey. He's had some favorable report about his CT scan. Looks like he's going to start a back-to-play plan that we talked about today and finalize over the next day or so. Had a good workout earlier today. Have another good workout tomorrow. See some velos, see some shapes. But according to him and the medical group, he's really in a good place. So that's super encouraging. Campy, as we know, had a rehab assignment yesterday. Like Elsinore, DH going to catch a day. Reports were favorable coming out of that, so we'll see how he progresses there. I saw Joe play long toss the other day. In the last day in Boston, it was like he's in a good spot. He's playing catch, and we'll see what that looks like. Still clearly a ways away, but able to move his arm with the baseball, and so far so good. Yu is back playing some catch and starting to get back into his program, which we're going to continue to put together with him. We'll have a little better idea when we get home what his plan is. And Toddy's, been able to rest. So, but the last report, I texted with him yesterday, is, no real discomfort with the walk, which is good, which means he's clearly healing on some level.
probably the quickest to return of that group, it sounds like.
Yeah, I would expect so, yes.
And how about Xander? Any timeline for him, assuming everything continues to go the way it is?
No timeline according to him rejoining with us. There's a loose timeline of when he can start to get back and get some DH and second base time. Likely with El Paso, we'll be able to announce that more than probably likely tomorrow.
Vasquez can't you see contract?
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, I haven't heard anything to the contrary. I haven't been able to get any dialogue with him about or any feedback relative to how his catch went today, but nobody's overly concerned that it's going to be something that's going to carry forward in any great detail.
Well, it's a long list of guys to ask about
because they have a long list of injured players.
That's the thing. So
Campusano is on a rehab assignment, and Bogey is about to go on one,
but no real timetable on a return.
No real timetable on a return. I just saw Kevin post an article with a quote of how he wants to be like a super utility guy.
Ooh, excuse me.
Go to Kevin's. Go to Kevin's.
Xander Bogaerts is about to start a rehab. This is from Kevin. I'm ready to go. He said Tuesday afternoon. Okay, I'm at the timeline. Super utility.
Hold on.
Yeah,
it says right
go
here,
on.
I want to be a super utility player. Quote.
That's like the lead of the next 90 minutes.
That's what it's right there.
Let me see this.
Right there.
Let me see your phone. This brand new phone. This iPhone 15.
Yeah, how you doing?
Things are good. Okay, I want to be a super utility player. He's talking about Bogaerts.
I would assume
that's an amazing amount of money for a super utility player.
That's a big chunk of money.
I'm looking for that exact quote because hold on, I can't even pull it up.
Hold on.
I want to be. Let me find that quote. Super. Eggy Rosario, dude.
Well, then why is he
Eggy Rosario? Don't scare me like that. That would have been the entire show.
Kevin got us though.
What's it say? He's got the quote, but then down below he says what?
Padres notes.
Gotcha. So it's part of the notes.
Xander's ready for a rehab assignment.
Okay. It seems like that. Yeah.
Manny's getting a break. Ha-Seong Kim being extra choosy. Eggy Rosario eager for more. But then there's a picture of Xander in Boston.
Right. Yeah, that's confusing.
So I'm like, whoa. Who said this? Who said that? Was it Xander?
It seemed like it, but I would have told you, like, if he said that, that's shocking.
You think?
And again, he didn't say it because no way in year 2 he's that guy. Now, Eggy Rosario, great. Yeah. Do what's asked of you. You can hit a little bit. If you can find your way in the field, you can hit a little bit. Be that super utility player. You can spend a lot of time in the big leagues. There's a lot of guys that have spent a lot of time in the big leagues playing multiple positions.
Yeah, but thankfully it's not Xander.
That would have been amazing. I was like,
sorry.
wait, what?
Sorry, I just that's what I saw.
Right? No, I'm with you. No. It read like that.
Right.
It read like that.
Because when you have everything there and you see Xander, you're like, hold on.
Right.
Pause. Excuse me.
Yeah. So just looking at. Oh, by the way, with Manny. So he's the DH for the 4th time in 5 games. So whenever we can get a nice little stretch of days off my feet, it's going to work out at the end of the year. I mean, I guess that's what we're going to deal with. Now, listen, Manny's coming off a real injury, had surgery, said it might be until the 2nd year until he's fully healthy. There's another quote. How about this? The smiling Machado said, "My body is always barking. This is just to keep me healthy. It's a long season." He's going to be 32 on July 6th. So this is something for Padres fans to probably get used to in the second half of his career. He ain't playing 150 games in third.
Nope. And thank God for the National League DH.
True.
Oh, thank God.
It would change everything.
It would be a problem. It would be a big problem, but you don't have to worry about that because the DH is there and Manny's bat is more important than his glove. But going forward, when Manny DHs and Xander does come back, how are things going to shape out?
When Manny DHs and Xander comes back?
Correct.
Well, I think you have real options because you have guys that do play multiple positions, like Arise, like Cronenworth, like Kim.
And there's only one of those guys that can play third base. That's Ha-Seong Kim.
Ha-Seong Kim can play third. Wade.
But again, their best lineup, I'm assuming, is going to be with Xander in there.
Definitely. They're going to tell us that's the case.
Yeah, and Manny is your DH. What do you do in the infield?
What are you doing?
I'm putting Luis Ariza first. I'm putting
Crony at second.
Crony at second. I'm
Kimmy.
putting Xander at short, and I'm putting Kimmy at third.
Perfect.
There you go.
There's no issue with that.
But I thought he's our second baseman, John. That whole thing.
That's fair. I mean, and you know what? Who even cares? It's like, just go find ways to field the best team day in and day out. And Kim's been better here recently. And it's a fair. Here's the thing. I think Machado is going to play a lot of third, is my guess. He happens to have been off his feet now. But my guess is he will play a lot of third. And he's not going to have a lot of 4 games and 5 game stretches where he's not at third, would be my guess.
Mm-hmm.
And their hope. Now, you're right. He's 32 and he's got an elbow, and maybe he does have to play DH half the time.
And when I think you see Manny at third base, you're going to see Luis Ariza as your DH, Jake Cronenworth back at first, and Bogarts at second. Even though I think Jake Cronenworth
is the better
second baseman.
Mm-hmm. And seems like he's taken off as a second baseman.
It's exactly. And when he's at second base, it seems like he has his best years.
Yep.
Interesting. Yep. I don't know. They have a lot of discussions to be had once Xander gets back. Because also you got to think about this. Donovan Solano is just not a guy you can throw into the side and not ever have play again.
You're right.
You know?
So again, it's like the things they're weighing. Now, Profar is cut through as $1 million player. He's not going anywhere. He's playing every single day. But it's not like Soto's out and you're playing Profar, which, by the way, Profar would still play. They would figure it all out. But like you got Xander Bogarts out.
Yeah. That's
and Donovan Solano's been a really nice piece, but he hasn't been a true regular. He's done what's asked of him, and he's come through.
Maybe that's a good thing that he's not a true regular. But he also has shown that he can go out there and give you a professional bat every single time.
A lot of 2-strike hits.
And he's come up through in some big moments. I mean, that game against Washington, they don't win that on that Monday night if Donovan Solano doesn't get that big double in the 10th inning.
No doubt. Again, if it was like theoretically, if Profar was filling Bogart's position, that would be a massive discussion.
Yeah.
But they'd figure it out. I always say baseball is a way of working itself out. Very rarely, oh no, we're stuck.
We have too many good
players. We
can't
figure it out.
Oh man, I guess we have to do nothing.
It can be weird for a day or 2 or 3, and you might have to sit someone in there if that's the case. But with someone like Xander Bogarts, when they get him back healthy, my guess is he's playing a lot. Not every day, probably, but he's going to play a lot when they get him back healthy.
I would agree with that for sure. I would agree with that. Yeah.
All right, coming up at 5 p.m., Scott Miller from the New York Times. More on the state of the Padres, the injuries. We are now in to the second half of the season. On the other side, the name we don't speak of here in San Diego has announced his retirement. We'll explain coming up next. All right, so if you're a veteran, listen up. Did you know that you can access up to 100% of your home's equity right now? Hey, guys, it's Schaefer. You can do it with Loan Pronto's VA Equity Advantage program. You can get 30, 50, 100 grand or more and use that money to pay off all those credit cards and personal loans, car loans, or maybe use that cash to do that home improvement project. Veterans love working with Loan Pronto because they make it easy. No junk fees, no hassle. They can unlock that cash in your home's equity in a matter of weeks. Don't keep paying insane rates on credit cards. There's a smarter alternative with Loan Pronto. Get more info and start the process now at loanpronto.com. Or if you're a current VA loan rate, or if your current VA loan rate is over 6.5%, Loan Pronto can get you in a streamlined refinance with a lower rate right now with no income verification and no appraisal. Lower your monthly payment big time. Loan Pronto makes it so easy for veterans. Call now. Here's the number. 619-207-4336. 619-207-4336. That's 619-207-4336. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781. Subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org. All right, Scott Miller, New York Times, will join us in about 15 minutes. Coming up at 5 p.m. We're with you until 6. Padres and Rangers coming up. Kemba Walker.
Don't say his name, John.
Exactly. The name you don't speak of if you're a San Diego State fan. So he's announced his retirement. I mean, I think a lot of people remember Kemba for, and you don't have to just be a San Diego State fan. There was the 11-game run that UConn went on. And UConn's had some runs. I don't know if you tell Aztec fans anything they don't already know. And they've gone through San Diego State national championship before. We all get it, right? Well, no greater example than 2011. UConn had a bad year. Regular season, they get to Madison Square Garden, they win 5 games in 5 days. That's unheard of stuff. It's unheard of stuff, at least in the moment. Kemba just goes crazy. And then in the NCAA tournament, he goes crazy. And then, of course, there's a Sweet 16 game. This year in San Diego, he flops. He scores 36. Aztecs led this game late. Game turned on technical fouls. UConn, Kemba Walker take advantage of it. He was very good, obviously, that day in Anaheim as well. They win the game. They win the national championship. Who knows if they get the ultimate result or the opposite result. But Kemba Walker, all these years later, 14 years later, announcing his retirement. Could he have retired before the 2011 NCAA tournament?
I think last he did. And,
maybe there's a national championship.
Probably a national championship, maybe. Or maybe they make a Final Four. And I'm talking about when they made the Final Four, the first Final Four. Things maybe, I don't know. Kemba Walker is definitely a guy that Aztecs fans will remember forever, especially that UConn team that, that Sweet 16 against Kemba Walker and, Kemba flailing back, right?
Yep.
And get the technical called, and that completely changed the entirety of that game. So, and Aztecs fans remember that like it was yesterday. When I bring it up, like Kemba Walker flailing, like, oh yeah.
Well, there's something, you're right. Like there's certain names, if you say it to certain fan bases, it's all you got to say. It tells the story. Picture's worth 1,000 words. You say Kemba.
He flopped.
Yeah, you hear that. And I mean, Kemba's like as good of an example as you're going to get from a San Diego State perspective because, okay, that's 2011. I'm trying to think, like, what would you say? What would you say in 2023 against UConn? I mean, UConn was just good. Like, it's a credit to UConn. They were really good.
There's no controversy.
It was like Jordan Hawkins hit, I think it was his name. Jordan Hawkins hits big shots. So, and they had, whomever that, Sano go inside, Klingon. I mean, think about all the NBA players on that team. And then this past year, you run into UConn, and UConn fair and square. It was a really good team. And they ended up winning another national championship. But that's one of those what could have been moments that is discussed locally, not nationally. Is anyone really aware of it and how that all played out? I mean, think about that. You're set up. You got Kawhi Leonard on your team. You are playing in Anaheim in your first ever Sweet 16. The Aztecs had never won an NCAA tournament game until 2011. And there they are in the Sweet 16, essentially hosting UConn in Anaheim in front of all Aztec fans, or majority of Aztec fans, and leading late in the second half before, like you said, a flop.
Yep.
And it changed everything.
And I'm watching it. I'm watching it back right now. And you're like, man, the whole thing is just, come on, man. And that completely changed the entirety of that game. Because at that point, I want to say
they were up.
What time was it in that game? Aztecs,
9 minutes left.
9 minutes left. They were up 53-49.
Again, I mean, in college basketball.
Yeah, when Tapley just kind of nudges him. But again,
was it Tapley or Franklin?
No, actually, it might have been Franklin.
Jamal Franklin.
Jamal Franklin. Yeah, you're right. Jamal Franklin. Tapley's right there. Yeah,
it
was Jamal Franklin. Just if you're an Aztecs fan, you're like, oh my gosh.
I feel like, but it's like, okay, you're thinking about that forever.
Yeah.
But you get to a Final Four, and that takes a decade, but you get to a Final Four. Or 2020, like I always say, it's like, you never would, again, if not for Kemba's flop, maybe San Diego State wins. Maybe they don't. We'll never know. I know Steve Fisher has talked about it that way previously. Like San Diego State absolutely could have, if not should have, won that game. And then 2020, it's like, man, that could have been a Final Four team. But again, you put some of that to bed because of what happened in 2023. Because you you do something that you weren't able to do previously. And now you don't have to second guess and worry about it in your head for the rest of time.
It's like, why does UConn always have to be in the way of San Diego State basketball?
Isn't that crazy?
Always.
So they've got, is it 5 titles, guys?
UConn?
Has 5, I think, since 99. And 3 of the 5, they have faced San Diego State in the NCAA tournament. That's pretty incredible.
And those have been San Diego State's like best years. Like,
yeah, none of it was ever in like the round of 64. They were all in the round of 16 or later.
This year, I don't think you can consider last season for the Aztecs basketball team as like one of their greatest ever, because they didn't win a conference championship. They didn't win a regular season title.
But I'll take Sweet 16 over both those.
But they did go to Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the goal, is like go as far as you can in the tournament.
Right.
And when you go to Sweet 16, that's a major, major accomplishment. Back-to-back seasons, first time in school history. But the 2 other times, 2011 and 2014,
lost to Arizona.
They were the number 2 seed. I'm talking about 2011, and then I'm talking about 2022 or 2023, I guess.
2023, the Aztecs were a 5 seed,
but they also won a conference championship. They won a regular season championship, and like, I'm just saying, like, seasons in a whole here.
Okay. I'll play this game with you.
UConn.
What are your top 3 seasons in San Diego State men's basketball history?
No. I'm talking about when they faced UConn, John.
Okay.
Not seasons in Aztec history. I'm saying
ranking those 3 seasons?
Yeah, I'm saying the 3 times the Aztecs have played UConn in the tournament of late, 2011, 2023, and 2024. 2011,
they were 2 seed.
They were 2 seed. 2023, they were 5 seed, but their accomplishments that they had over the entirety of the season,
sure,
you will say that's the greatest Aztec team in Aztec basketball history.
You know what's funny? And we'll have Dutch on next week on Tuesday, a week from today. I don't know if he would definitively say that. They had the furthest run, but would he definitively say it's the best team? Because he's talked about that before. I don't know if he's gone as far as say this is the best team in San Diego. They made the deepest run.
Well, when you talk about it, you could be subjective to a lot of different things. You could talk like best team as far as like talent goes, best team as far as accomplishments go,
record,
best team
tournament.
As far as record goes. Because if you want to go record, then it's 2020, 30-2, even though we know what happened there. You want to talk about best team as far as accomplishment go, 2023.
Sure.
If you want to talk about maybe best overall talented team, maybe you go 2011 maybe you go 2014. Like there's differently
it's true.
Arguing points.
This is like a little bit of the baseball conversation we've had. Like if the Padres win 111 games, but they don't make a World Series, but then a Padre team wins 84 games and they make a World Series, is the 84 win Padre team that made the World Series better than the 111 team Padre team that went to the NLCS?
Like when the Padres made when the Padres, not the World Series, when the Padres made the postseason in 2020, remember Don's like, we'll find out if this is the greatest Padre team in the history of the franchise.
Yeah.
And we're like, Don?
Yeah, I don't
know about that.
And again, it's subjective, and that's what makes sports fun. It really does. But yeah, I mean, all I know is Kemba, okay, I wish he would have retired before the 2011 NCAA tournament, because again, we never really know what happens if not for that flop. And again, home game in Anaheim, second half of the second half with a lead, a multiple possession lead against the UConn Huskies. The rest, as they say, is history. Scott Miller, New York Times. We'll get a set for tonight, Padres and Rangers. Talk about the state of the injuries with the Padres as we enter the second half of the season. Scott Miller, baseball writer, joins us next on Jon and Jim.
This update is brought to you by Staples Stores. Padres and Rangers start a 3-game series tonight in Texas. Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres. Other Padres news today, Ethan Salas and Robbie Snelling were announced as future All-Stars for the Futures game in Texas in 2 weeks. With Staples Hot Deals, you'll find super low prices on hundreds of items for back to school right now. 24-pack Crayola crayons and comp books are just 50 cents each at Staples. Plus, save even more with the Easy Rewards program. In-store only. Offer ends 8/24, limited to 20. Save big on back to school at Staples.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 3 of Jon and Jim. Scott Miller is going to join us momentarily from the New York Times to kick off hour 3. Padres and Rangers will play game 1 of their series coming up momentarily in Arlington. First of, again, 3. Then the Padres are back home before the All-Star break. That's all you got. 3-game series against the Rangers, 8 more at home at Petco, including Friday when the Padres host the Diamondbacks. We'll be at the Naughty Barrel, by the way, downtown on Friday afternoon. So we've got you covered this week, and Scott Miller's going to join us coming up. I mean, we heard from Mike Schild about 30 minutes ago. The injuries are a concern. Their play is not. You know, the injuries they're dealing with, absolutely concern. The way the team is playing, the last thing I would say is it's concerning. In fact, it's concerning. It's very encouraging the way they're playing right now. So we'll catch up with Scott Miller on it coming up in a moment.
Yeah, I hope they can continue to play well until the All-Star break, because that's going to open up so much more confidence with the organization to truly go all in here. At least that's the perception of like what they're already planning on doing. But you play well, it's just like, okay, everybody's on board now. There's no teetering back and forth between like, should we or should we not? It's just going to be interesting to see what exactly they're going to do.
All right, let's talk with veteran baseball writer Scott Miller, who's done so much good work. He's with us here. He's contributed for the New York Times for a long time. He's back with us on Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. It's interesting, Scott. We've been talking about this, and we appreciate your time. It's like the Padres are really playing well, arguably as well as they've played in meaningful games in a couple of years, but they're also dealing with a lot of injuries. So is their good play sustainable considering their health issues?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. But that's one of the great things about baseball is just when you expect A, B happens, or you're expecting B and then A happens. You know, you never know. I mean, where there are injuries, there are opportunities. And, you know, Higashioka, stepped up. I mean, they have so many steps. I mean, Jurickson Profar, I don't even have to really say much about him. I mean, he's been unbelievable this year. They're probably the team MVP. You know, they've had the role players. Guys like, you know, when Machado was down, Tyler Wade stands up. And so over a long term, I mean, the Musgrove and Darvish injuries, of course, remain a concern. You know, can Matt Waldron keep doing what he's been doing all season long? Time will tell. Nobody knows. I'd say what they're doing, having won 9 out of 11 now, they're 9 out of 10 until Sunday's loss, right?
Yep, that's right.
It's not sustainable to keep that pace, but of course, it's not sustainable that the New York Yankees are going to win 9 out of every 10 games. But where the Padres are and to win enough to, you know, earn a wild card slot, that kind of thing. I mean, I say that because I still think the Dodgers are. I mean, to me, it's a given they're going to win the division. They're so deep, but who knows? And yeah, it's sustainable that the Padres can keep, you know, winning more often than they lose and make things interesting. I think even with Tatis out and, you know, some other guys out, I think it's sustainable. Now, you know, they're going to, of course, need to get some guys back. I mean, Bogarts is going to be big when he returns. When he returns, B, when he returns, is he going to, you know, be anything close to the old Bogarts that we really haven't seen yet in 2 years in San Diego?
What have you made so far of Jackson Merrill's season? I mean, he's just what he's doing right now for a rookie. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, really good, of course. And and that's a reason why I say yes, it's sustainable. And it goes back to what I just said about the way I said it was when there are injuries, that means there are opportunities for others. Now, Merrill got his opportunity more not because of injury, but because of the cost cutting stuff, right? I mean, they had to trade Juan Soto last winter, and they had to make some moves to lower the payroll a little bit. And then, as we all know, they go to spring training, they don't have enough outfielders, and all of a sudden Merrill steps up. And that is the kind of stuff that, legitimate major league players, when they're young, they take advantage of opportunity like that. And I think, I love Merrill's game. I think he's talented. He's smart. His approach is correct. I think for a rookie, his mental game and his attitude is where it needs to be. He's not overwhelmed by things, but also I loved, the other day was a Friday night game in Boston when he hits the big home run. His post-game comments about basically, look, I don't like talking about me that much. And I mean, all that stuff, just give me more of that. I think that's one reason why this is sustainable for the Padres to keep doing what they're doing. Guys like Merrill stepping up. And I think we probably talked in the spring, I wasn't predicting a pennant for the Padres, but I'm on record, and I maintained it back then, and I still maintain it, is saying I think this team had a chance to be better this year with the addition by subtraction of Juan Soto. We talked about that, I think. For me, Soto was completely horrendously overrated, and I know he's doing nice things for the Yankees. Good for him. He didn't fit here. His game didn't, I never saw a superstar try to walk as much. I thought with Soto gone, that would free up the lineup a little bit, and maybe if some guys stepped up, maybe they'd be better this year than they were last year. And that's what's happening this year to me. And part of it is Jackson Merrill.
Scott Miller with us right now. Great baseball voice contributor for the New York Times, Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. So you're AJ Preller. The deadline is 4 weeks from today, July 30th. We know that starting pitching, they've run out of it before. Like right at deadlines, they have injuries, and it impacts their ability to win in the second half of the season, 2023, 2021. There's other examples. So what is he thinking right now? He's got all these injuries. He's got a team that's playing well. What does he need to do to make sure that this isn't 2021 or 2023, but they can finish this thing off?
I always say this at the trade deadline. Unless there's an obvious need elsewhere, but for me, it's always all about pitching. You even in today's home run or bust game, it's all about pitching, and you can't fake pitching, and you got to have it. Obviously, the bullpen's had some ups and downs this year, but I look at adding a starting pitcher if I can, and a bullpen piece or two if I can. And if I can't get a starting pitcher, then I just load up with bullpen pieces. But it's got to be, I think, about pitching. And, it's going to be difficult to locate. I know when they were talking with Miami about Luis Arraez, you remember, they were talking about Luzardo as well at one point. Of course, Luzardo now is on the shelf with an injury, and, the Marlins aren't going to be able to trade him. So he'll be off the board. There's a lot of talk about that Garrett Crochet and Chicago, but I honestly don't think the White Sox are going to trade him. I think he's one of their young, under control guys that they're going to keep, but who knows? But there's not a ton of starting pitching out there. But yeah, I think for me, it's a no-brainer with the Padres, pitching, whether it's a starter plus relievers, whether it's whether it's just relievers, some semblance, whoever you bring in, you just got to load up on the pitching, because that's where it's going to be won and lost in the second half.
What's a better story than Jurickson Profar this year?
Yeah, really good. And you know what? It also goes to show the value of, as in our modern lexicon, as the guys that have kind of become known as glue guys. And I'm hesitant to even use that phrase with Profar, because it almost undersells him, because obviously he's been really productive at the plate. Even if he wasn't a glue guy, his numbers would be so welcome to the Padres this year. But the combination of what he's doing on the field, his smile that he brings to the ballpark every day, the attitude permeates the clubhouse, and what he's in the clubhouse, his relationships with Tatis, with Machado, with others. I think that's a huge upgrade over Juan Soto too. I mean, Soto, I think when he came here in a trade, it was the first trade of his career, and I don't think his head was right, and that's fine. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, look, a lot of guys when they're traded for the first time, it takes a toll on them mentally. But then last year we should have seen more from Soto, but he was just on his own program, worried about his own contract, and Profar's the exact opposite. He's a guy that lifts the rest of the team up, not just himself.
Scott Miller with us right now, contributor for the New York Times, Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Mike Shildt, the job he's done here, he's got Manny Machado on his team. That alone has been a bit of a roller coaster over the last 6 years here in San Diego. How has Mike Shildt gotten this team to this point? How much credit does he get for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to credit him. I mean, and you're right with Manny Machado and others. I mean, this is not an easy team to manage. I mean, with the big payroll comes big egos, and it's not an easy team to manage. And I think you can see that sometimes in Mike Shildt's post-game comments, especially before this recent winning streak when they were losing a little bit. Maybe after some games they blew. I think Mike Shildt errs on the side of being over positive, which sometimes it's like, come on, let's back it up a little bit. You can be not even, when you lose a game and commit 3 errors, you don't have to, make it a rosy picture. And I know he's talked on and on about the grit of these guys, and he loves this team. Sending messages to the team, through the media, as all managers do. I think he's done various things to try to connect with his team and get them to play for him. And by and large, whatever method he's used, I think's worked. He shows faith in guys. He's an old school baseball guy, and I mean, I'm not going to say it's been all Mike Shildt this year, but you certainly have to give him, credit for a job well done.
Fernando Tatis Jr. on the IL. We don't know when he's going to return. For him, it kind of just feels like this is going to be the narrative on Tatis for the until he proves otherwise, that he has all the talent in the world, but yet he's a guy that just gets injured too much. I mean, do you see that he can overcome that, or is this something that unfortunately is something that's going to follow him for his career?
Yeah. Once he came back from that suspension last year, he played much of the year. He was pretty healthy last year, right? If
he was, yeah. Yep.
And I thought, okay, hopefully as he's matured, he's figured out some things to do, as all players need to do, to stay on the field over the bulk of the season. But now this is reminiscent of before last year. You're right. Until last year, that was, to me, the big thing. Tatis is a great player, but he can't stay on the field for 162. I will say this. As positive as I've just been with you guys over this team and what they're doing, you do bring up one of the biggest negatives, and that is not only is a big loss at Tatis hurt, but the thing that concerns me, the first thing I thought about when I heard stress reaction in the femur was his rookie year or second year when he was shut down early with a stress reaction in his back.
It was his rookie season.
Yep.
Rookie year, right?
Mm-hmm.
The guy's 25 years old. I think it's hugely bothersome that a 25-year-old kid, let alone a would-be face of the franchise like Tatis, hugely bothersome that a 25-year-old kid now has had 2 stress reactions like that, which, precursor to stress fractures, lower back and feet, now the femur. And that's not normal. And I don't know if the muscles are too bulked up to where the bones can't sustain the muscles, so the bones start to go. I don't know what's going on, but it absolutely hurts this year, and it's got to play into the Padres' long-term fears with Tatis Jr., because if you've already got two different stress reactions in bones in different parts of your body when you're 25, I shudder to think what happens when you're 27, 28, 30, 32. That I think there's something not right here.
To follow up on that, and before you go, Scott, I mean, it's like if this guy was healthy, like I'll just use an example, another 25-year-old, I don't know, like Juan Soto, if he's been healthy to this point in his career and Tatis hasn't, I mean, Tatis's numbers per game are historically good, right? Like when you look at the number of home runs he's hit at this point in his career, or his career OPS, but he's missed such a huge percentage of games that he could have played in that, like, I fear, and I think this is one of the worst things you can say about an athlete is like, man, what could have been, right? Like if this player was healthy, and it's like, unless he plays 3 or 4 consecutive years, I think people are going to say that.
Oh, I think no doubt they are, because what could he have done when he's missed that? And, also, the suspension for the steroids woke a lot of people up too. And I mean, by woke a lot of people up, I mean fans. And, I credited Fernando last year for coming back humble and doing everything he needed to do post suspension. I thought he handled everything with grace and humility and did what he needed to do. That said, a suspension for steroids, that's going to linger over your whole career. And if you don't produce the numbers you did before the suspension, then people are going to wonder, well, which is the real guy? Because were the pre-steroid numbers just, was it because of the steroids that he had these great numbers? So when you get suspended, you open yourself up to people wondering about that. And you also have to wonder what I just mentioned with the stress reactions in the bones. I hope not, because I really like everybody in San Diego. I love watching Tatis play. I hope everything works out for him. But when you're suspended for steroids and you've got all these injuries, and especially the two odd ones for a 25-year-old, you also have to be on the side. People can't help but wonder, is the body breaking down? Is part of it because of steroids as well? And I'm not accusing him of that. I hope it isn't. But I'm saying what's a fact is we know he was suspended for steroids, and we know about all these injuries. Those are all facts. And quite oftentimes, one with steroids, one ties into the other.
And unfortunately, whether it's whatever it is, perception becomes reality as well when you've been suspended for performance-enhancing drugs. Scott, we love your perspective. We appreciate the insight. We really do. We hope to have you back at some point within the next month or so. But thank you for doing it here in San Diego. As always, we'll do it again, all right?
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, great stuff, Scott. He's spot on with Tatis. I mean, we might not like to hear it in San Diego. He's spot on. I mean, 2 + 2 isn't 5. Mm-hmm. So you're going to, and by the way, people would be discrediting him even if everything was perfect. They'd say, well, look, I mean, if it's bad, it's steroids. If it's good, he's still on it.
Yep.
But unfortunately, he's playing into the hands of people that have like a narrative about Tatis, which is he can't stay healthy, and maybe steroids have been part of his story.
I mean, he's 25 years old.
Yep.
And already through his career, John, he missed half a year because of a stress reaction in his back.
Mm-hmm.
He missed a full season because of a shoulder and a wrist injury.
Mm-hmm.
And then he missed a full season because of the suspension, but also he got shoulder surgery after that. So he would have missed a bunch of time the following year, even if he didn't get suspended because of the shoulder. The only season where he didn't deal with injuries was 2020. That's it.
And I kind of last year, because that was the suspension year, right? Because the first 20 games he was out,
Mm-hmm.
and then he played 141 games.
Right. But he also did not have a good year.
Correct. I mean, you're right. It was a very pedestrian year.
So you got a guy with so much talent, and he's just I don't know if we're ever going to see it, and that's so unfortunate because it's it's there, and he's a big part of this team. When he's hot, when he's going, like,
and it happened earlier this year. I mean, he was going. He was really. Now, to your, I don't think you're saying this either. I think we'll see stretches of really remarkable play from Fernando Tatis Jr., but will we ever see it over an entire year? That's the question. And by the way, like you said, half season here, full season there. Even this year, if things go well, it could be like a quarter of a season or more. He could miss 40 plus games. I mean, we don't know. He's been out for a week, and it's going to be after the All-Star break. I mean, hopefully that's not the case. Maybe it's 20 games, but it could be longer than that based on what we heard from Tatis himself. So it's crazy. I'm trying to think of another example, Jim, of like give me an athlete. Again, it's going to happen in the NFL all the time. Guys can't stay healthy. I think some of the story in Christian McCaffrey in Carolina was his health. Mm-hmm. When he was healthy, he was as good of a running back as there was, but he wasn't healthy. Now, to his credit in San Francisco, he's been brilliant, and he stayed on the field. But wasn't that part of the story with McCaffrey before he got to San Francisco?
I'll give you a perfect example.
Okay.
Let me just pull it up right here real quick. Nope, not that.
Carry the 1.
Carry the 2. Sorry.
I think it's hard to compare NFL, by the way, to MLB. That what I just did, I'm saying. I think that's hard to do that.
Well, this is how I compare the person. I compare the person as just a freak athlete, uber talented.
Okay.
But he just wasn't healthy and his career got cut short.
This is baseball you're talking about?
No. Well, he did play baseball.
Oh, Bo?
Yeah.
Jackson?
Yeah.
The way you said that, like he played multiple sports.
Right.
Now, some of that story, right?
His head just blew out.
Now, if he never played in the NFL, again, we'll never know.
Then
if Tatis played in the NFL, we'd never see the guy again.
I'm just from a pure
right
athlete
standpoint. You're right.
That had everything in front of him.
I like that.
Hall of Fame talent. Right?
I like that.
You got to watch the Bo Jackson 30 for 30. It's amazing.
I have. Part of it.
It's amazing. But just what this guy did in college and the athlete that he was, and everybody's saying like what could have been because of injuries. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Tatis because he hasn't faced, I feel like, the big injury like Bo did, but just from a talent standpoint, 5-6 years in here, this guy's been dealing with injuries like every single year.
It should be. And by the way, real quick, to be fair, Bo Jackson was nowhere near. I'm just looking at these numbers before. He was nowhere near the baseball player that Fernando Tatis Jr. has been. Nowhere near.
Nope.
So, and you're right. It was cut short. We don't know what he could have been. He was a good baseball player. He was not a great, historically good player. He was a very good player, made more impressive by his ability to play football and baseball, which is incredible. There's rare examples of it, and it's incredible to be able to do it. But Tatis has had a lot more success in the big leagues than Bo Jackson ever did.
I mean, Bo Jackson, his 89 season when he went to the All-Star team, 32 homers, 105 RBIs, 805 OPS. And oh, by the way, in the NFL, he rushed for like 950 yards.
It's amazing. He had an amazing year in Major League Baseball, but didn't have amazing career.
And he can shoot a bow and arrow with his feet.
Is that true?
Yeah, he does it on the 30 for 30.
I did not realize
he sits in a chair and he'll pull back the compact bow with his feet, and he's like hitting bullseyes with his feet.
I can't do that. And I don't think Tatis can do that.
I can't do it with my hands, let alone with my feet.
Let's switch gears to the NFL on the other side. We've got an update here on Brandon Ayuk for the Niners.
Brandon
Ayuk. Will he show up at camp without a deal, a long-term deal? That's next. All right, Brandon Ayuk, will he report without a long-term deal? That's next.
All right, this update is brought to you by Staples Stores. Padres and Rangers underway in Texas. Rangers lead the Padres 2-0 top of the second inning there. And other news with the Padres today, Ethan Salas and Robbie Snelling. They were announced as future All-Stars for the future game in Texas for the All-Star game in 2 weeks. With Staples Hot Deals, you'll find super low prices on hundreds of items. For back to school right now, 24-pack Crayola crayons and comp books are just 50 cents each at Staples, plus save even more with the Easy Rewards program. In-store only, offer ends 8/24, limited to 20. Save big on back to school at Staples.
So NFL media reports saying that the Niners and Brandon Ayuk no closer to a deal, which I guess poses the question of, is he going to show up to training camp without a long-term deal? We do have a resident Niner fan to my right. His name is Jim Russell.
Hi.
According to Pro Football Talk, he wants more than the $14 million he's due to make before reporting to camp.
Now, what will be a bigger bummer for you, Jim? Clay leaving the Warriors, or if Ayuk also leaves the Niners?
Like also leave the Niners, or like if I had to pick one,
like one. Let's say he leaves the Niners. Which one are you more heard about?
Right?
Yeah, Brandon Ayuk. Clay, I love Clay. Clay's a legend. Like he is. I mean, he's gonna get his jersey retired, and you know, for the Warriors, he's gonna go to the Hall of Fame. Like Game 6 Clay. Like, you know, but it's hard to watch when the guy isn't the same player that he used to be. And it's hard to watch a guy in his final game in a Warriors uniform in an elimination game literally go over. It's just hard to watch because you don't ever want to see those types of guys and their careers, and they don't look anything resembling close to what they did in their prime. Brandon Ayuk is like in his prime, like right now. He is one of the top 10 wide receivers in the game easily. And so if he leaves the 49ers, that's a bigger blow. I think the Warriors, just from like nostalgia standpoint, from a like just remembering standpoint, like of how he was such a big part of their franchise, and they don't win the 4 titles without him over that 13-year stretch. It's just a different feeling with Clay than it is with with Brandon Ayuk if Brandon Ayuk left.
I mean, let me ask you this. I mean, if he puts his foot down, what's going to happen? Will he be traded if he puts his foot down? Would he sit out if he puts his foot down? Or eventually is this just going to be resolved? They've met. They've quote unquote had good meetings before, but he wants a long-term deal. He hasn't gotten one as of yet. I mean, how's this likely to end? With him getting a deal, with him playing out this contract?
This is all negotiation. He's going to play. They have his rights. He's not going to sit out. Like,
right.
He's going to play. It behooved the 49ers to get something done here so nothing bad happens and
get something done being a long-term deal
or just something. I don't know, whatever. And if you get a long-term deal done with Ayuk, then that means Debo's gone next season. So it's
kind of like one or the other is likely out the door.
Yeah, who are you going to pick? Are you going to pick Debo or are you going to pick Brandon Ayuk? I would choose Brandon Ayuk.
He's been healthier and he's younger.
Healthier, younger. He's also a better route runner.
Mm-hmm.
He's a better receiver. Debo is a great football player, but he's also a guy that gets hurt a lot.
Yep.
He's a guy that got really exposed in the Super Bowl. You put a good cover corner on him, he can't run routes. He's not a good route runner. You ever watch those JT Sullivan breakdown tapes?
No.
Okay. I do sometimes. And
you have time to do that?
Well, nighttime when Aaron's asleep and I have nothing to do for a couple hours. Like
right.
I don't know. There's a lot of things on the YouTube that you can go down the rabbit hole of.
And, there is a lot.
How did I get onto this channel?
So are you saying that it's kind of like the Bulls' Last Dance, but unlike the Bulls who had won 5 titles before the Last Dance, that this roster, of course, every roster changes, especially with free agency, and it's the NFL. It's 53-man rosters. But the bulk, the core, this is the last chance to dance with this group, potentially? Is that where we're trending, headed?
Yeah, yes. And it's not because of what the Bulls went through, which is the ownership wanted to break that team up.
Sure. I mean, there's differences.
But the money for everything, yes. You have to pay Brock next season or after next season.
After 2024?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have either Ayuk or Debo. You have also Nick Bosa on the books, Fred Warner. They have a bunch of Trent Williams. This is not a team that there's a George Kittle. I mean, you have all pros at every single position, and you can't pay them all. It's just not the way the NFL works. You have to kind of make do at some positions. And right now the 49ers are in a position where every single left tackle, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, defensive end, defensive tackle, middle linebacker, cornerback, all premium players paid at a premium rate except for the quarterback, and that's why everybody can be paid.
Well, we were told a year ago, I mean, you didn't say this, but the narrative has been, well, the reason Purdy's successful is because of everything around him. Well, in the future, as Purdy becomes this franchise quarterback and is paid appropriately, that probably won't be the narrative because you're not going to have this franchise quarterback on a big deal and all this weaponry, so to speak, around him. So he's going to kind of prove his way out of that narrative potentially, or not.
Well, look at it this way. If you draft and develop well, you can still have George Kittle. You can still have Christian McCaffrey. You can have either Brandon Ayuk or Debo. And then you draft weapons to put around him. And then we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the one part of it that makes it harder is if you're the Niners, there's a good thing is you pick late in drafts. A good thing right now, right? They're picking 30th. They took a receiver from here from Florida, 30th, 31st overall. And by the way, you can absolutely hit. You can absolutely hit in those spots. You're thinking about hey, the top 5 receivers, and I forget for $1 million this year in the first round, and they maybe took the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. So it's you got to really scout it. And then you got to hit. And again, they've done it before. They've drafted well before. I mean, look, they've drafted guys in the 7th round like Brock Purdy that have been absolute home runs. It's just you're not going to be picking top 3 to go get skill.
If they don't win the Super Bowl this season, that team will be completely changed the following year.
If they don't win the Super Bowl this year, what if they do win the Super Bowl? Would it also completely be changed the following year?
Probably no matter what.
Last dance.
Probably no matter what. I would suspect it's coming up on Trent Williams retiring. They're going to make a decision on Debo or Brandon Ayuk. They have to they have to sign Brock Purdy. They have a lot of questions after this season as far as money goes and players go, because their window's not this super long, but they've done a very good job drafting and developing when you think about it. So
yeah, absolutely.
They could prolong this. It's just, can they ever get over that freaking hump?
I mean, here's the thing. It's like the way we look at sports is like, what a disappointment the Niners have been. No, they haven't. I mean, as a fan, okay, yeah, they've lost 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls. They've been the best team in the NFC 2 of the last 3 years. They've been one of the winningest teams in the NFL over the last, you tell me, half decade. But if the end result's the end result, if it's a bit of like the LA Dodgers story, yeah, they haven't won a Super Bowl in a long time. Now, they've won Super Bowls, but they haven't won a Super Bowl in a long time. So it's like there's 2 ways to look at it. Would you rather be a Carolina Panthers fan and have no shot? Or would you rather deal with the heartbreak, which is a really good team that's put themselves in a position to win at a very high level, but hasn't won the last game of the year, even though they've been close?
I know.
You'd rather be a Panthers fan, right?
No, I would not rather be a Panthers fan. Give me suffering and misery for my entire life. But it's one day when they win it, it will all be worth it.
Could be this year. They're the favorites right now.
Which makes sense because
makes sense over KC.
Kansas City lost. Who did they lose? Their top corner. I forget who they traded away. But again, it's Kansas City.
Right. Not going to win the Super Bowl. They lost their top corner.
Well, he was a big reason why. I mean,
it's Mahomes.
I mean, yes, Mahomes. I get it. Okay, I'm not stupid. Mahomes is a big part.
They could replace everything. They replaced Tyreek Hill.
Right. They're exactly. You have Mahomes and Kelsey. You're good to go.
All right. On the other side, an update from Arlington. Dylan Cease, who had been better his last couple times out, has he been better today? They're underway in a 3-game series in Arlington, the Padres and the Rangers. We've got an update for you on the other side. Plus, we have Jim's back page that's coming your way next on Jon and Jim. All right, an update in Arlington where the Padres and Rangers are underway, plus Jim's back page. Jim's backstage. Jim.
John.
Do you know what 31 years ago today was?
It was 1980.
No, you're an idiot. 1993.
1993.
It was the Phillies Padres doubleheader that we've discussed before, with game two starting after 1 a.m. in the morning.
I remember that game.
That the Padres led 4-0 in game two. The Phillies came back, had a player thrown out the plate in the bottom of the ninth inning to send the game into extras. And then Mitch Williams, Mitch Williams, 93.
Yeah, wild thing.
Mitch Williams had a walk-off single for the Phillies against the Padres at 4:30 a.m. in Philadelphia.
Wrap-up show would have been lit that
would have been, the sun would have been coming up on that thing, dude.
It would just be like Korea.
Seriously, it would have been the exact same thing. So anyway, that was a game that started at 1:26 a.m. Something you'll never see again in sports is a game starting at 1:26 in the morning. I had two things, though. There was that happened 31 years ago. Oh, you know what? We talked about all the ties to Arlington, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Musgrove, first no-hitter.
Yep.
Arlington.
Yeah, that was going to be talked about at nauseum. I mean, it's not, not at nauseum, but you know what I mean? It's like,
of course, anytime you're there, you're bringing that up.
Every time you're there, you have to talk about it because, I mean, that was one of the most iconic moments in franchise history.
April 2021. They just put it up. Maybe April 9th, 2021, right underway.
We were in studio. We were doing the wrap-up show then on the radio.
Right. Not a full Arlington, maybe, because you're right in the teeth of the pandemic, the 2020 season that started. There were a lot of fans.
Yeah.
The rules are different everywhere, as we know.
And I remember how stupid it was that you had both the broadcast teams having to broadcast the games in San Diego. They couldn't be on site. So you heard Don and Mud call the no-hitter, and they weren't even there.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
By the way, April 9th for a no-hitter is you're not really built up. I mean, you're not thinking about, I don't know how many pitches he threw that day.
It wasn't
it wasn't
crazy amount.
Maybe I'm making it up, 110, but it wasn't 130. I'm making it up. Maybe it was 130. I have no idea. But anyway, that was in Arlington. All-Star game will be in Arlington. Oh, by the way, Padres losing in Arlington. It is early. They've overcome a lot of deficits. They're losing 3-0 in the third. Dylan Cease has allowed a home run. That was a 2-run shot, another run in the second inning. So Dylan Cease has not been sharp in the first 2 innings here tonight, Jim.
See, it's you hoped that this team wouldn't come out flat after having that night off in Boston, even though I think they flew to Texas.
They flew to Texas after Sunday.
But still, you have that half day there, and then you have all today yesterday, and you have half of the day today, and you're just keep it going. Just keep it going.
Well, I said it earlier today, and I'll stand by it. Win the series. Does not require winning today, but win the series is the goal here in Arlington against a team that's really been struggling in the Texas Rangers right now. As we always do, let's get to this.
So this explains, I think, why my Apple EarPods started not working the other night.
They went vintage, right?
And it was my left EarPod that stopped working. My right one works, but the left one doesn't work.
It's because they're old.
I had that happen with my JBLs too.
Apple came out today, said these products, including one from 2017, are now, quote, considered vintage, John.
What's that mean? Non-supported?
Correct. So if you went into you need parts for them.
Yeah, they fix this. Yeah.
They can't fix it for you.
2017.
The devices include the iPhone X, the original HomePod, and the original AirPods. Now I have the original AirPods. What version's that? This
is the newer, because the padded one wasn't original.
Right.
So, and I've lost 2 pairs, so this is my third. Okay. So this is within the last year.
So I have the original AirPods.
And they've been good then. If they've lasted all that time, that's
great.
Pretty good.
They've been great. But still, that sucks. If you have
it does.
Original AirPods, for some reason, I don't think anybody out there has the iPhone X. I don't even remember what model that was.
Oh, I'm with you. No, I'm with you. That's actually using it right now on the street. That's not a lot of people.
My buddy, Will, he has an iPhone 11 or seriously, it's a really, really old iPhone. It works. He never does anything with it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, definitely.
But that's what they do, man. They're like, look, we're forcing you. You can't keep these old iPhones forever. You got to upgrade here.
I kind of get it because I feel like the technology changes rapidly if you're Apple. And like, again, if you're trying to rely on a product from 2017, you know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to keep up with the Joneses. That's what I know. Your laptop is it seriously? It's probably a 7-year-old laptop.
Yeah.
At some point, you'll probably make the leap.
I think I will need to make
because it'll just like die.
I mean, it sounds like
making what it sounds like my old laptop. Remember, it was always making noise.
I know, but
well, eventually you won't even be able to watch videos on it. That's what happened with my iPad because I had the second gen iPad, and now I can't even watch YouTube or something on it.
Yep.
Good job, Apple. I love your.
I think they're fine.
I think they're okay.
I think they're okay.
I love the iPhone, the 15 Pro, by the way.
I love the 14. It's great.
You've seen Star Wars: A New Hope, right,
no.
John? Okay, a starfighter prop, John, from the actual movie sold. It was the 1977 original Star Wars: A New Hope. A starfighter prop sold for $300,000 at an open bid. It was the Y-wing, Brent. A Y-wing starfighter prop.
From what? New Hope? Is that a movie or a show?
The ship scale is it's a miniature. So it's like, I don't know. It's 1/24 scale, whatever that means. The Y-wing, if you know Star Wars, you know what the Y-wing is.
That's a bomber.
Yeah. It was in the New Hope movie, and it sold. That's a big chunk.
Is this the first one? This thing looks awful.
What are you watching? Is that the trailer?
It's on YouTube.
The YouTube trailer?
Dude, don't be scared to use like good cameras.
From 1977, John.
Nice outfits.
They filmed this in like 1975.
Is that Will what's the famous guy? Comedian?
Will Smith?
No, Will Ferrell? Look at that.
Harrison Ford, bro.
Oh.
It says it right there.
My bad.
Ford.
John thinks Will Ferrell was around in 1976.
Yeah,
but like he was like physically, but like he wasn't in movies.
He was not. Chipotle, John.
Yeah.
There's been rumors that Chipotle portions are shrinking. Well,
that the prices aren't.
The prices are definitely not shrinking.
Chipotle portions. Okay, interesting.
One analyst decided to check out this theory, and they bought 75 burrito bowls to test the claim.
What? Were they all the same size?
Zachary Fathom and his team made 75 identical burrito bowl orders spread over 8 different Chipotle locations in New York City and found a sizable range when it comes to how much each meal weighed.
Wait, same store, or did you say New York City in general, like 30 stores?
Like 30 stores.
Okay, different stores.
The average weight was 21.5 ounces, but the heaviest was 26.8 ounces, with the lightest weighing just 13.8 ounces.
16 ounces a pound, right?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good amount of food if the average is 20 ounces.
This guy kind of comes off as like that person that, measured the footlongs at Subway. And it's like, oh, that's a centimeter short lawsuit.
Right. Yeah. What's the takeaway here?
On social media, many applauded Fathom's report, even calling for a, quote, conference for this kind of pedestrian research that actually impacts people's lives, while others are just wanting a map showing the locations that were, quote, hooking it up.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's funny. I always thought Chipotle was a lot of food. And again, if it's a little smaller, it's been okay. I always thought it was a lot of food.
I'm not a big Chipotle person.
Yeah.
When they're every time, and if I get a burrito,
yeah,
I'm like, hey, just one scoop. Because
it can be a lot.
They can make a gigantic,
huge,
like forearm burrito.
And then the
pico and everything.
The tortilla's ripping and like it's hard to eat.
Yeah, I'm like, just give me one scoop. We're good there. We're good.
Yeah. All right. So what you're saying is the size of Chipotle's portions vary.
Correct.
In New York City.
Yeah, be careful out there.
Be careful out there. We are back tomorrow. Of course, we're off on the 4th, but back tomorrow at 3 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. Getting ready for game 2 of the Padres and the Rangers. Join us tonight for a wrap-up show on YouTube. We'll see you after Padres Rangers actually tonight around 9:30 Pacific. If you missed anything today, sportsst.com, iHeartRadio app, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, or Spotify. Find us on social at Jon and Jim, JONANDJIM. For Brent and Jim, I'm John. Keep it here. San Diego Sports 760.
Peace out, bye.